Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Third and 20 Dynasty Podcast, Season 2, Episode 37. I'm JT, joined by Frank, Jake, Lunis. Kicking it right off, we are 1 week away from the NFL draft, so this is going to be a very draft-centric pod. But I think we should start off first with receivers not showing up to workouts. And it's kind of the tale as old as time. You have those rookie wide receivers, or sorry, wide receivers on their rookie contracts who are going into like the last year of their deal, who want more money. Obviously, they've earned it, they've proved it, and it's the likes of AJ Brown, Terry McLaurin, Debo Samuel. They're all not going to voluntary workouts. I wouldn't be
I think
surprised if
Deontay's in there as well. I've heard
Deontay
rumblings.
Johnson. Okay, fair enough. He's definitely someone else that has earned a future contract. So these guys are all holding out. What are our concern levels for any of these guys? Because we see it every year. There are certain players that hold out and actually screw over, people that have them in fantasy, all in the hopes of money, which is fair enough for them. But we've seen it with Melvin Gordon, Le'Veon Bell, players in the past. Do any of those guys seem like potential holdouts?
You got to just question does this run into the regular season? And I'm going to say it doesn't for any of these guys. I think the receiver market has proven to be very valuable this offseason and in terms of dollar amounts being given to all these wide receivers. I don't think any of these guys are going to hold out. They saw what it did to Le'Veon Bell. He ended up losing a whole bunch of money on holding out. So I just think they're trying to prove a point and they're saying we want to be paid. We're not coming to OTAs, and that's fine. But push comes to shove, regular season starts, training camp opens. I think they'll be there.
Now, my other concern, other than the holdout, because if we all agree, okay, holdout, at least as of right now, not a concern. What about trade scenarios? Because the receiver market this year has been more trade happy than in previous years, and NFL teams seem to be more trade happy than in previous years. Is there any possibility that, like, if let's say Debo gets traded to the Jets, wild scenario, not expecting it to happen, but like, I mean, would that plummet his value? Like, kind of like what happened with Tyreek Hill?
I do want to say I agree with you in that sense, where kind of where the receiver market's been heading, because there's been like a jump, I feel, in a lot of these contracts this offseason, especially when like people always bring up how good of a deal this is for the Rams now. Cooper Cup's extension like 1 or 2 years ago, where now it's only 15 mil per, and now all these guys are getting easily into the 20s. I think now teams are going to see like, would we rather just trade this guy for first round capital or whatever it may be, and just draft a receiver and have that guy on a rookie deal for 4 years? So I think depending on how you feel about certain possibilities, with obviously the Jets being one of them and other teams, I think it's realistic that between these three receivers, you can throw in Deontay Johnson. I'd say there's a good shot that at least one of them's on a different team in 2 seasons.
Oh, good shot.
Well,
That's interesting.
Yeah,
I'm
between
just
those
gonna
four,
come
I'd bet money on one of them being gone.
real quick from the Steelers' perspective. I'm pretty sure I saw a figure today that the Steelers are spending the least amount of money on their offense in the NFL. I'm thinking Deontay's getting extended,
He
like
should.
almost 100% that we
Well,
will
if they're
pay
not
him
going to
top
pay
five receiver money.
when Big Ben's money comes off the books, that leaves a big hole in the offensive, checkbook there. Um, I just, I would say Deontay gets paid. Looking at AJ Brown, Terry McLaurin, Debo, I'm not so certain. I don't know if these
Uh,
teams really have the cap space to, just because San Fran's still paying Jimmy G, uh, Tennessee's paying Tannehill. Like, is there really enough money to go out in there and pay these guys without tremendously limiting yourself to what you could spend on the remainder of your team?
And not even just
uh,
them two, with one sec JT, with McLaurin, if Washington feels like they're not ready to compete yet, and you have a 26 or 27-year-old receiver who's entering their prime, and you can get like a first rounder for him, or just really good like draft capital return rather than paying this guy 22, 23 mil per, I could see them
well,
moving him.
McLaurin's the only one I think that could actually end up on a different team. And why I think so is, first off, we've seen with the Saints and Rams, they prove cap is fake. You could just move, restructure everyone. You can you'll if you really want these guys on your team, you'll make them fit. Um, Debo's proven how effective he is in the San Fran offense. AJ Brown shown that he's definitely the lead receiver in the Titans offense. Frank laid out the Deontay Johnson case perfectly. Terry McLaurin is the only one where it's like, first off, you're going to have to pay a premium to keep Terry on your team because it's a mess there in Washington anyway. And second, like, that's the point, Lewis. Yeah, like what is this team doing? They're not even like, they're going to need more than just a quarterback to compete, and it looks like they're probably not even getting a quarterback this year at this rate. Like, it's Carson Wentz. So to me, this is just Terry McLaurin seems to be the only one that I'd be betting on a different team. And if he does end up on a different team, I can only imagine that would positively impact his value in terms of consensus. Whether or not I actually believe, I'd have to see what team he ends up on. But as of right now, that would be consensus.
So yeah, that's the other interesting side of the coin is maybe you want to go out and buy Terry McLaurin, hoping that he goes to a different team. And if he doesn't, I mean, depending on how liquid he is in your league, if you wanted to get out, you're assuming that before the season starts, you can get out for a similar price that you paid for him. It's a little dicey doing that, but because Joe Herbert just said, and he's correct, look for high price receivers to be dealt to teams with cheap quarterbacks, usually quarterbacks on the rookie deal. And nowadays, it seems like when these Mahomes and Josh Allen-esque quarterbacks got their extensions, it was kind of like the first couple years were pretty lenient before the cap really started to ramp up. So that kind of just got me thinking, like, well, if the Chiefs have extra draft capital or looking for a receiver, well, maybe they try to make it work with Terry McLaurin. And if they're able to come up with a deal where Terry McLaurin's not getting paid top 5 receiver money that Tyreek Hill is asking for, I mean, that's the dream scenario, but any possibility of that?
I would say small. I think the Chiefs have 2 first-round picks, and they're gonna use that to fill that void that they left from Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, that's the other side of the coin too. I just don't understand teams like the Packers and the Chiefs and these top tier competitive teams. Like, you could just draft that rookie wide receiver and he be as impactful. Like, I mean, I know there's no Jamar Chases of this class, but we did just see what Jamar Chase did. Jalen Waddle similarly had a strong impact right out of the gate. Like Higgins.
Well, yeah, that's where I see the argument is like, okay, yeah, there's no Jamar Chase. And you can even make the argument, JT, you won't agree with this, that there's not even a Devontae Smith, but you can't tell me that there's not a T. Higgins, a Michael Pittman-esque prospects. Like, I'm sorry, I think that Drake London's a better prospect than both T. Higgins and Michael Pittman. Like,
well, Drake London outplayed Michael Pittman.
Yeah,
it was competitive with him. So
the other thing though is that now this is kind of a different conversation, but what is that going to do to receiver ADP in the draft now? If there's just going to be inflated receiver prices because receivers are being more sought after and getting paid more, and now kind of being treated in that there was always that like core 4 positions, right? Quarterback, left tackle, your blindside tackle, pass rusher, and corner. Well, you can almost just add receiver in there now because of the impact that it's had on a lot of these teams.
Do we have Vegas odds on how many receivers are going in the first round?
Yeah, I think it's 5.5, the over.
Yeah,
at this point, I'd say the over.
I would say the over because, I mean, not even just first round, like top 20, we see most mock drafts of either 4, sometimes even 5 in the top 20. You have like the, what is it, Wilson, Burks, and London, not in that order, but usually in the top 20. And then you usually see Jameson or Olave or even like sometimes both also in that back end teen section. So I think more teams are just doing that to save money.
And not only that, the late first round, I've seen a lot of Pickens and a lot of Jahan Dotson even.
Christian Watson's in there.
Christian Watson, another guy. So, like, we could see 7 receivers in the first round. I don't think that would be a crazy number.
No, I don't think so either.
And now I'll look by.
We're going to talk about the receivers in a couple minutes here. So let's hold our horses real quick.
Okay, yeah. So do you want to move on then to, I mean, another episode and more Baker talk, but it's just,
what does this mean, Baker not showing up to Cleveland? What does that mean?
So he didn't show up to their OTAs.
He didn't show up to OTAs today.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I want to use this to
Deshaun Watson did show up to their OTAs.
Yeah, well, he's not suspended or anything, so they can't. I mean, he might be.
Even if he does get suspended, can he still go to practice? Oh, wait, no, he can't.
No,
I don't think he could be around.
The big question mark is Baker going to Seattle? I feel like that's the big if, because if he goes to Seattle, all of a sudden his value is kind of back. And if you buy him right now, he's probably around a mid to late second round pick. In starters right now, Baker's going very late. If he goes to Seattle, all of a sudden Baker's he's not going to be at a first round pick. But I could, with a couple of good performances on a still loaded offense, barring some offensive line help, we could see him kind of Jared Goff his way back into first round pick valuation come the start of the season.
The issue is the Seahawks just paid Geno Smith. I think it was like guaranteed $6 million, which to me is kind of, yes, Jake.
I believe the contract was guaranteed 3.5 with another 3.5 in incentives that are pretty likely to hit if he plays
it's
any
like
games.
Above average backup price.
But still, to me, the Seahawks are an organization that oftentimes don't make sense. But carrying 3 quarterbacks is somewhat rare, especially at that price value. So
I
think the Seahawks have carried 3 though, because I know the Steelers carry 3.
But with that much money, because if you're bringing on Baker, that's a lot of cap to have.
Right.
Is it?
Quarterback?
Yeah,
I would assume so. Baker's a first round pick.
Well, can't you just pick up the 5th-year option? You're on the books for like a year or 2, and if it doesn't pan out, it's just kind of like, okay, you're back in free agency.
I thought they give him the extension, or they didn't give him the extension.
No, he didn't get an extension last year. I know that.
No, yeah, Baker had.
He just has the 5th-year option, I think.
Yeah, he has his 5th year.
The 5th-year option for a number 1 overall pick is like $20 million. It's very high.
Yeah, I think it's worth it though.
The thing I'll say with this though, with Baker, if it's not Seattle, like the running spots are the landing spots are kind of running out. Especially if a team like Carolina drafts a Malik Willis.
Dude, you already know that Carolina's more. They've said it. McAdoo said it. They're either going one in the draft or it's still Sam Darnold. They're not trading.
Yeah, pretty much. So if it's not Seattle, then where?
I think Seattle is honestly content.
Is it Seattle or bust?
I think Seattle is content just doing nothing at their quarterback position and being bad. I think they are.
I actually agree.
When you trade a guy like Russell Wilson, who's been the face of your franchise for the past 10, 11 years, whatever it was in Seattle, and you now have 2 first-round picks and a whole bunch of draft capital moving forward thanks to that Russell Wilson deal, you are just going to build through the draft and build naturally once again until they get back to where they had that elite defense that was completely built through the draft. And they got Russell Wilson in the draft and Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. They're going to do the same thing and rebuild naturally. It might take a few years, but they're not going to go out and blow that on trading for a guy like Baker Mayfield, who we've already seen. We know what he is. He's fine. He's a starting caliber quarterback, but he's not a guy that's going to win you anything more than, a first-round playoff game? Let's be real.
Yeah, I mean, the team that should have went and got Baker was Washington. So I think that would have been.
But what about this scenario? What about this scenario?
The Colts should have.
It's like you're Seattle. Okay, let's say you like Desmond Ridder and Matt Corral. You don't want to trade up for them, but you're content picking them, I don't know, wherever. They're picking at 9, so maybe they do follow them, but you get the fucking point. Maybe they trade back or something. Just whatever the scenario happens to where they're not able to get their guy. Either they didn't like the price at pick 9 or they wanted to pick him up the second. Something happens. And then you're sitting there on day 2 and you can trade like a 3rd and a 4th for Baker. Are you not just going to do that because of the upside? And even like if he plays all right and you don't extend him, you can you're probably going to get a 3rd or a 4th round comp pick if a team signs him. Like to me, if I'm Seattle, it's just all upside if the price is right.
I just don't think Cleveland is going to snoop that low. And what's actually going to end up happening is we see it every year. Some quarterback is going to get hurt, and some team is going to say, we need a quarterback, and go, okay, we can get Baker for half a season for a 3rd round pick. We're going to do that.
Yeah, they're going to Sam Bradford their way into getting a first.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what's going to happen. Because no team that needs a quarterback is going to go out there and get Baker, because realistically, even though this is a weak quarterback class, Malik Willis, Kenny Pickett, Matt Corral, like, are they that much worse than Baker? I don't know. I don't really think it's.
Let's just look at the NFL landscape real quick, and because I want to do this exercise with Jimmy G as well, and let's just see like if there's any other teams that could trade for him, and then we'll move on to the next segment, right? The AFC West.
Worried about that.
The AFC West, no teams are going to take him. NFC West for Jimmy G is out of the question. I guess you could say Seattle for Baker, but that's it for the NFC West. Then let's move geographically. I'd say NFC North. I don't see Kirk Cousins leaving. I think Detroit's content with Jared Goff. Maybe they draft a quarterback. Packers obviously not, and the Bears have Justin Fields. AFC North, same thing. Steelers just picked up Trubisky, and then the other three have their top tier quarterbacks. NFC South, you have the Panthers, which is a possibility. The Falcons just went with Mariota, so
I think the Falcons would be more likely than the Panthers, to be honest.
To go for a Baker or Jimmy G, I think.
Yeah,
so.
I get.
I think it's just the fact that they already signed Mariota.
Doesn't matter.
He's not that expensive, I
It's
guess.
a 1-year deal. It doesn't matter.
You could have a
They'll
quarterback
find-
competition. It could be like Drew Lock to AG kind of thing going on there. I'm pretty confident Baker's better than Mariota.
I think Jimmy G's more likely in Carolina than Baker Mayfield.
I agree with that.
I agree.
All right, so Tampa, no.
Joe
And-
Herbert saying Pete Carroll, Baker Mayfield, not a good match in personality. I didn't even take that into account. So maybe Pete Carroll doesn't even fucking want him. Like if he could have him for cheap.
That's true.
That's an interesting thought.
I don't know though. I mean, Pete Carroll dealt with Richard Sherman for however many years, right? Like,
Yeah, not your
Richard-
quarterback though.
Baker Mayfield is
yeah,
not.
but Richard Sherman was the spokesman for the team. Like, you're not looking for Russell Wilson at that time as the guy to
Yeah.
speak for the team.
I don't think it'd be that big an issue.
Bobby
just don't
Wagner,
think-
same thing. Yeah, but Pete
Bobby
Carroll, I
Wagner's
think, is
great.
more of a player coach.
NFC East Giants, maybe.
You're kind of like I think Baker's
Maybe.
significantly better than Daniel Jones, but it's kind of just that's the thing.
Eagles- No.
Is he though?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What has Daniel Jones ever done? He had that
Yeah,
one good
Baker's
game
better
against
than
Tampa
Daniel
Bay.
Jones.
He had that one good half against Tampa Bay, and now we're all Daniel Jones.
He's still living
I don't
off
know,
that
I
one
guess
half.
just-
Baker led the Browns to a playoff win against Steelers. Like,
I mean, I guess I agree. Like all in all, the landing spots are thin. But the last question is, do you just buy Baker before the draft, hoping that on draft day, probably like day 2, midday 2, once all the good quarterbacks have found their homes, the team that missed out on their guy goes and trades for Baker? Is that a scenario that can or cannot happen?
It can happen, but there's also the risk of like, what if these quarterbacks get drafted, Jimmy G gets out, and you just training camps here, and Baker still hasn't been traded yet, and you're just kind of sitting there with like a time bomb. Like you, I guess you hold through it and then hope eventually something happens. But out of the landing spots are just so thin. That's what makes me scared about it. If this whole thing happened in like the beginning of free agency, before like Trubisky got signed, before Mariota got signed, before the Wentz trade, Matt Ryan, I'd feel better about it. But
Well, just right now, buy, sell, or hold Baker Mayfield for pick 209.
oh, bye. Was that for our
Yeah,
podcast?
what was that,
Jake? What was that?
That was see you, buddy. I'll
For
take
209. For 209.
Jake calling out the sign language on us.
I'll see you.
Like, all right, you have to think Sam Howell, Desmond Ritter, like those guys are going before 209. Like, you're not.
Well,
like,
yeah, I mean that.
And Baker's a better
209 is
quarterback than those
I
guys.
am selling for something relevant right now because I don't want to hold the bag price.
Look, I have 208. I would easily sell that in our home league, but I have Baker in our home league. I have 208. And I would so sell that for Baker because people after like 204 are just gross, and at least Baker, like, I think could have another.
But the thing is, right? 209 is just much more liquid than Baker. People will. Oh, you could always throw 209 in a
Liquid.
trade, and no one's gonna be upset about it. People there, you have people that
but people
like me
lose
will not
quarterbacks.
trade for Baker.
I mean, weren't you the one that just made the suggestion that like some teams' quarterbacks going to get hurt and Baker's going to be more valuable? That's going to be the same thing with real life. I mean, we saw it. I personally traded a freaking second for Ryan Fitzpatrick or whoever. Yeah, I traded a second for Ryan Fitzpatrick. I traded away Ryan Fitzpatrick for a second. Like, Ryan Fitzpatrick is a significantly worse value than Baker because at least Baker's young and has years and at least has shown us signs of actually a solid
Yeah, you're trying to
quarterback.
Mitchell Trubisky this thing. You're just hoping
Yeah.
that the landing spot comes, and then either you have a new quarterback that can play, or you just sell him for now an early second or package him together with some other shit for a late first on the hype.
I can't believe we
That's
just
the
spent
whole
another.
play.
I
I
mean, this
actually
is
think
my
I'd
fault.
buy Baker for 2 and I think with
Yeah,
you,
I would
JT.
easily. This is my fault because I put him on here, but we're doing another podcast with Baker. All right, let's move on. Wide receiver rankings.
All right,
Uh,
let's get them on the screen, baby. Wide receiver
Okay.
rankings. We're doing top 15, other than unlike running backs at the top 10. Here they are on the screen. We didn't do a consensus column. I just realized. But
I could
whatever.
I could whip it up real quick. Is it gonna
Um,
mess up the what's it
I
called?
can
The view?
add a column.
Probably not. I got the call. All right.
Oh wow, that was
so-
actually nearly perfect.
all
All right,
so
but we actually have some difference of opinion at the number 1 spot, so it's gonna be a little juicy.
yeah, the issue is in terms of consensus, I actually think based off the points right there, I think Garrett Wilson would be the number one because his lowest is the no, it's Drake London. Drake London, then Garrett Wilson, then Traylon Burks. It's 1, 2, 3. So Drake London, I think we've said enough about Drake London already. I think all these guys are. I mean, would you guys agree that this is the top tier? Like this is a tier of 3?
No.
Yeah.
But you know,
Oh
it's,
This
it's
this
not.
guy.
It's not.
How many times do
It's
we have
not.
to tell you,
It's
Lounis?
just not. Jameson, well, man, I cannot wait for him to be fully healthy and playing in the NFL. Before he got his ACL torn, there were a lot of NFL guys saying he was probably going to be the second wide receiver possibly taken and a top 10 pick. Now, I don't think he falls past 15. At the latest, he goes top 20 in this NFL draft. So he's going to have good capital off the jump.
Dude, what about Pickens?
Pickens is an absolute
He's in that tier too.
beast.
Because I
He's not
actually
in that
think
tier.
that this tier 1 of receivers, you can make an argument extends to, at least for me, my top 5. I think that the gap between Pickens and Wilson and London is kind of thin.
Oh no,
Mm,
I disagree strongly.
No,
I
I
just
have
think
him in a different tier.
Dude,
I've said-
I watched Pickens.
Dude.
I watched that game against Baylor last year.
He's a beast
yesterday,
at getting
and I
the
was
ball.
like, "Holy shit, this guy is insane!" Like this.
All
guy's a
aboard,
beast.
Frank! All aboard!
I want to
He's-
put him. I like all these guys at the top. They're all good. I wish I watched more film before the startup I did like last week because I would have targeted these guys way more than I did.
All right, how should I do this? I think I'm going to ask each of you about your controversial one at a time, and then you can ask me about mine. So I'll kick it off with Lounis. Like Lounis, I know you have
Yeah.
Williams 2, Burks 3, so it's not really a big difference. But when I,
think
watched
the big
Jameson
one
Williams,
for him is Drake London at 4. I mean,
yeah, I
that's
guess we
the
could.
bigger concern for me. Than sure, you like Jameson Williams. Everyone has their own opinions. That's fine, but it's just.
I mean, someone
objectively
has
wrong.
someone has to be in the 4 spot. I view it as a tier. in
Throw
its own.
Justin Ross in that top tier then.
It's just
No, I mean, I like London a lot. I think he's going to be really good. It's just I have him in the same tier as those other 3. I think that's like a solid 4, and then there's a little bit of a drop off after them 4. So I still like. It's just someone had to go in the 4 spot. I like Burks more, Wilson more. You know, James, I just see him translating so well to the NFL. Like the way he was
Well-
used at Bama, the production. He was the most explosive receiver in college football last season. I know the
So-
transfer. Go ahead, JT.
you're the only one that has Jameson over Traylon, which is kind of where I wanted to get. Like I watched both of them play,
I like
and
Traylon Burks a lot.
yeah, I watched both of them play, and I just think like Traylon can do everything Jameson can, but he's just bigger. Like I don't know. I don't see anything like that much more inspiring. from
Traylon
Jameson.
doesn't,
Traylon
have,
doesn't have
that
the
elite
same
speed
explosiveness.
just because he's 6'5".
Yeah, but I'm willing to sacrifice speed for that size. Like he's just a large human being and the likes in the same mold of AJ Brown and DK and those kind of players. I don't know. That's my one issue there.
Yeah,
I
still like
guess
Burks. I think he's going to be a top 20 pick in the NFL draft.
yeah. It doesn't seem like as far as the top 3 go, Frank and Jake don't have anything really controversial with theirs. I don't really have with mine. Moving to 4, it looks like going across the board, it would be Jamison Williams. Although I kind of
I don't think it will
take him a little
be.
bit. Is it George Pickens?
I think it
I'd
has
say,
to be
yeah, it's probably
Pickens.
George. Lunis raises. It's probably tied. If we did this before, we would be able to tell. But I think they're right next to each other, Jamison Williams and George Pickens, in terms of where we have them ranked. Um, Again, my thing with George Pickens for me is just I see him get the ball. He's a beast, like at the catch point, but then what do you do after? It's
He's better than you think. He's better than you
Yeah, I
think.
actually really like him with the ball in his hands.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've seen him like a lot of his games so far, and his yak measurables, like his actual like
just
stuff, doesn't
So
translate.
CJT didn't want to bring up Yak with Jameson, but now he is Pickens.
Well,
No, I'm
there's a
just kidding.
difference. But
No, I know. I'm just
yeah.
kidding.
So the
go ahead,
the yak concerns that you have with Mr. George Pickens here, I just think is again a result of this Georgia offense. They asked him to do a lot of these routes that don't really lead to a lot of yards after catch. They ran him on a lot of curl routes and a lot of out routes and a lot of things that they're not routes that you see get the huge yak. You don't see him on a slant that often. You don't see him on a post that often. It's just I think it's a product of the offense more than anything. And when he's given the opportunity, you actually do see him do it. I mean, I forget which game it was in, but he caught a little curl route and then beat his man to the outside and ran 15 yards down the sideline for a touchdown. Like, I just think that he has the ability. It was just not showcased in this Georgia offense.
All right, I'm gonna address the chat for a second because we actually have a lot of people in chat. Hey guys, so Joe Herbert and Skull Dynasty both saying Garrett Wilson wide receiver 1. Joe Herbert says he has the highest floor. Skull Dynasty saying
Yep.
great separation skills. You guys know
Yep.
how I feel about separation.
Fans
I'll
are
die
with
on
me
my
once
hill.
again.
I will die on my hill. That doesn't matter. Yeah.
Fans are with me.
Um.
Sorry, there's an ad. I'm showing a quick clip of Pickens here. Hold on, I gotta find the right.
Okay. Well, while you
Great
show
content.
that
55.
clip, I just think Garrett Wilson's a little too small for me to be my wide receiver 1. It's just his measurables are nice, but he seems more of like a top 24 receiver than a top 12 receiver in terms of potential. So I kind of have to disagree with the highest floor.
Dude, this is the one play I need to see for his freaking
I'm gonna have to pull the YouTube up.
This is some sweet stuff. I mean, it takes the whole fucking defense to tackle him. This is a good ass Baylor defense. Was it the Baylor coach that just got hired by, or was that Oklahoma State that just got hired by Ohio State to be their DC because their defense was trash?
I don't know.
I mean, dude, he
literally,
literally, it's taken the entire fucking defense to tackle
all
him.
right. Frank, didn't we have this whole saying about Big 12 defenses and Big 12 players and how we?
Yeah, but the thing,
Baylor one was good.
Baylor and Oklahoma State are different though, because you're right. Big 12 defenses do suck ass. If you're not Baylor and Oklahoma State, the
Oh,
past
look at that guy on the ground injured too. They're taking out each other. They're literally taking out each other.
I don't know, dude, like I watch George Pickens. He does a lot of the little things right too. You know, he has extreme nuance in his routes. Does a really good job of attacking the blind spot. I was really impressed with what he did with the ball in his hands at the catch point. Like, because I've been seeing on Twitter, the consensus take is kind of like trade down to the spot where you just get whoever is left of London, Wilson, and Burks. Well, I might trade down and just go into fucking Pickens and net an actual
that's what I wanted
substantial
to.
difference.
That's
big
what
move,
I
yeah.
want to do.
Pickens scares me, very limited route tree. But I kind of agree with Jake there. Now, this is projection tinfoil hat Frank coming in. I think that was more of a product of the Georgia offense than that was of Pickens' skill set. I don't think Georgia really asked him to do a whole lot. They were kind of just like, okay, just be that like traditional number 1 vertical threat receiver. I think they could have asked him to do a lot more.
That's fair. I do like Pickens a lot. I just think I'd have to receive the right compensation to trade down from those top guys to Pickens, as I view, because you said you don't really view like a big tier break between that top 3 and him, right? I know
Not
Jake
as
doesn't. You
large as
said
I had
so
it
nice.
before. And I mean, if you're just going, because I'm looking at it from a startup perspective almost. Like,
Yeah.
I'm seeing these receivers, Drake London, Garrett Wilson, Traylon Burks, they'll go in any order, but generally speaking, somewhere at the late fourth to like the fifth round. I've been doing these 2 tight end drafts, so they'll kind of go until the early sixth with the tight ends getting boosted. George Pickens, on the other hand, is going like 2 rounds later than that. Well, to me, that marks like a relatively substantial difference in price. There's like a legitimate tier break between the two. Now what that price is, and is it actually worth it? I don't really know, but it feels like it would be.
I do think when we talk about ceilings and the most ideal outcome for Pickens, I'm with you guys. I think the big tier break is his floor is way lower than any of those top guys. When
Why?
you look at like range of
I'm
outcomes.
just genuinely curious why.
Because with Pickens, you are doing like a decent bit of projections. Like you're kind of
Yeah.
taking all these pieces that you've seen him making amazing plays versus these other guys I know can do it on a consistent basis. If Pickens can put it all together, his ceiling is right up there with them. Yeah, but
I mean,
don't
let's
think
just
he has
let's
the
just
same
call it
floor.
out. It is. He's kind of a dick.
He is kind of a dick also, yeah.
He's getting in fights all the time. Dude, one of my favorite plays from him because it shows off how
That Georgia
athletic he
Tech
is,
game?
but he's literally throwing a dude into the stadium.
Yeah,
Like
I
it's
know,
impressive
hilarious.
how much he's actually able to throw an actual person, right? Like,
Yeah.
but at the same time, it's like this might be a reason why NFL teams are like, yeah, maybe we'll take one of the other 4 guys that are around him, is because we don't have to worry about this crap. You know, I'm pretty sure I remember a game he got a penalty because he was squirting water on some dude when he came onto the sideline. Like,
Yeah.
it's just like, I guess to me, now we don't get to talk to any of the players, but it kind of looks like he's immature. Once again, projecting tinfoil hat Frank coming in, but from the perspective, I don't feel like I'm getting, your classic stand-up model citizen here.
I just think he's always been one of these guys that has just been physically bigger and stronger and faster than every single person on the field, and he tries to show that. And on top of that, he's always been the best player. He's been a 5-star recruit. He went to Georgia. He won the national championship. Like, it's just, I think it all builds into this personality of he's just very big ego and one of these classic diva wide receivers that we see or have seen in the past. So I don't necessarily know if it's a bad thing. I just don't know if it might be a red flag to some teams. I would agree with that.
I personally like it. I would honestly rather have my receiver throwing people into the sideline than just taking it. But it's not my opinion that matters. It's the NFL opinion that matters.
Yeah, I know as a thing, maybe that doesn't affect my evaluation of him really too much. It's more so the play and like things that I mentioned earlier.
So looking at this top 5, which we're rounding up, I'll read it again for people that are on the pod that can't see. We're looking at Drake London, Garrett Wilson, Traylon Burks, George Pickens, and then rounding out top 5 is Jameson Williams. Of those guys, if we're comparing them to the 20 or 21 class, I don't think any of us would have any of these players above Jamar Chase as prospects. Feel free to speak up if you would.
No, I'd have Devontae Smith and Jamar Chase as 1 and 2.
Okay, that's where I was going to go next.
I would have Waddle over all these guys as well.
Okay.
Smith would probably be below London and Wilson for me. So,
dude, I would have had Waddle at like wide receiver 9.
That's nuts to me. I would have probably done something. I'm not going to even mention Terrace Marshall, but I probably would have had something along the lines of Jamar Chase. Then I think Traylon Burks. Then probably I would have had Bateman and Waddle next after Traylon Burks. Then Drake London. Then that's probably where I would put Terrace Marshall when it all falls apart. But then Garrett Wilson. So yeah, I don't know. You replace Terrace Marshall for Devontae Smith. I think it's better. It makes more sense. But
I have Waddle and Devontae Smith in the similar tier as I do Wilson right now.
All right, so I mean, at least they're somewhat competitive. There's no true top tier talent, like an elite generational kind of player in the likes of Jamar Chase. But these guys are competitive with the next group of wide receivers in 2021.
I think the only thing that's really keeping some of these guys is that they all have way more major flaws and reasons to knock them down. So the floor is just lower.
Mhm.
I mean, I think the ceiling is okay. Maybe it's not as high, but it's pretty damn close to me for any receiver. Like, dude, I mean, this is just as a receiver class for as a whole. Like, this is a phenomenal receiver class.
It's
I'm
ridiculous.
looking at some of these dudes. All these guys are athletic as fuck. All these dudes have produced for multiple seasons, most of them. Um, and like the guys that haven't produced, like the Christian Watsons and Alec Pierces, it's like, well, they're crazy athletes. They're not just good athletes, they're like crazy athletes. So phenomenal receiver class. Before I was more of like, oh, this top three, like top three, top no, I think it's a top five. And that's how I'm gonna be viewing it.
I'm staying firm in the top 3. Um, maybe
I will
even
say
just
this
top
this
2
is
for
a
me.
draft class more than others where you have different people saying who's the wide receiver one. Like it's not
Oh, yeah.
like usually it's like one or two. This year it's been like a few different people have made cases.
Well, that's where, in terms of consensus, I think you have a clear top 3.
Are
Where
you guys
those 3 are
fading
all
any of
wide
these
receiver one.
guys? This consensus top five we have. Are you hard fading any of them? Just
I
will
mean,
not draft?
based on my rankings, I guess Jameson Williams. Although I don't hate
Yeah,
Jameson Williams
same.
in terms of
Based on my
ADP.
ranking, I cannot take Drake London as the wide receiver one. Respectfully. I just can't. I refuse. I like him, but he's not that guy.
I'm in the same boat as JT. I don't think Jameson Williams is a bad prospect, but I wouldn't take him where I would have to take him. So I guess at that point, I'm fading him.
I don't know. It depends. We're going to look and break down the draft ADP, the rookie like mock drafts that we've been looking at. And in terms of that, I don't necessarily hate where Jameson Williams is, but
He's rising on a lot of.
yeah, I think that will be the problem. I think he will be more expensive than he is now.
He's been rising
For
this
that
week.
reason, I'm also probably out on Jameson.
I've seen a lot of
Williams.
people saying he's going 106, 107 in the rookie draft.
All right, let's get into this next tier.
This is a
players,
way
though.
more, yeah. So this is a way more controversial, debatable next 5. So we'll just start with the first 2. I think these are very different prospects. You got Chris Olave, who is a 4th-year player coming out of a big school in Ohio State. Had solid production numbers in his sophomore and junior year. Kind of trailed off like there's a slight increase in his senior year, but not what you really want to see. Compared with Sky Moore, who is a smaller school in, I keep forgetting, it's one of the Michigans, right?
Western Michigan.
Western Michigan. Yeah. Early declare, which is rare for someone from Western Michigan, and was also very productive, especially when you compare him to the other what do they call it, group of 5 teams. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, group of 5 receivers.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
if you look at Campus to Canton, there's a great follow on Twitter. If you aren't following them on Twitter, they do this. They have these charts that they post where it's like production, like age adjusted production, and they have like a trend line that's the average of top 24 receivers. Well, if you look at the one for group of 5 receivers, Sky Moore is like pretty decently above the trend line for NFL group of 5 wide receiver age adjusted production. I know it's a crazy fucking thing, but
yeah. So these are 2 players I couldn't be more opposite on, believe it or not, because they only are separated by 2 players in my rankings. But I don't know. I feel like I'm kind of tanking Chris Olave. I think he probably would have been receiver 5. No, I guess he would have ended up being receiver 6 regardless, but he would have been much closer to the likes of Jameson and George Pickens if it were not for how low I had him ranked. I don't know. I feel like we've talked about Olave extensively and why I don't like him, why you guys do like him, kind of thing.
He's exactly where I have him ranked. So.
Yeah, you could check out our previous episodes. I think Sky Moore, Frank just talked about his production. I guess what I'll say is we both expect these guys to be, well, Chris Olave, I think, is going to be a 1st-round draft pick. Sky Moore, I believe, will be a day 2 pick. So draft capital shouldn't affect them. But are there any teams that you think these guys could end up on that either? Well, the obvious answer is the Packers and the Chiefs. But are there any teams that like scare you about these kind of players?
Scare me?
Like moves you off. So Chris Olave is a 1st-round pick, right? Let's say he ends up on a team that you don't like. is there any team that scares you off Chris Olave?
Baltimore.
You are the sell Ravens.
I would be shocked if Baltimore drafted him.
Yeah, it was more of a joke, but yeah.
Like
Honestly,
the Titans.
No, because I think that's one of the things about Olave that I like about. He can play on the outside and inside. He did both at Ohio State. I kind of think that gives him an edge in terms. Like, I'm not as worried about landing spot with him. Like, you look at someone like, for example, we keep bringing him up, but like, any speed threat, Dotson or Jameson, you'd kind of be worried about quarterbacks that don't really have a deep ball at all. Someone like Olave.
I'm much more worried about the quarterback on Olave than I am Dotson. I think Dotson's just a player that can play at all three levels. I think Olave is your typical deep threat. Not that saying he can't do more, but he's going to run a lot of those deep balls that you're going to see. I've seen it a lot, and I honestly like the landing spot is New Orleans. Put him opposite Michael Thomas with J-Mo just chucking the pill. And I think it's a recipe for a lot of long touchdowns here for Chris Olave.
Say Olave goes like 16 to the Saints, where you have Jameson Winston throwing him. Is that a plus or a pro or con
like
for
it.
James?
It's a plus
Olave.
for me. I mean, I think we're going to see a lot of teams be forced to guard Michael Thomas. You're going to leave Olave in a lot of one-on-one coverage, which he'll beat. Let's be honest. I know you guys. He's a senior and all this. He still has the elite speed, and we watched the tape.
Mm-hmm.
He really leverages cornerbacks' blind spots, and I think he'll do a lot of that with one-on-one coverage. And we've never seen Jameis be shy to chuck the ball deep into even double coverage. So you let him a true deep threat like that, I think is a perfect fit. And on top of that, we probably will see the Saints move off of Michael Thomas in the next year or two, and that leaves Chris Olave here to even take another step in that year 3, year 2, where you want to see that production take a bump up.
I love what John Smith is saying in chat, because I think this would be the perfect pick by the Eagles, because it sums up the Eagles as an organization.
What?
Any team with a running quarterback like the Eagles, that would scare him off Olave. And I think it would be so Eagles to take an Olave over the likes of Treylon
The
Burks and
Eagles
everything.
don't scare me as a landing spot, really at all.
Of course they don't, Lounis. Of course they don't.
No, I
don't mind Jalen
Can I
Hurts.
explain?
He'll be the wide receiver 2 on the team next to Devontae and everything, and I think that's
Well,
solid.
I mean,
but
the thing I was going to say that's the concern, the running quarterback thing. It's either Jalen Hurts improves this season, or they have one of the top rookie quarterbacks the next draft. So you're either going to see an improved passing attack, or the Eagles are going to draft someone early next year to pair with those.
What about the
receivers.
Colts? Does
That's
the
why I'm not
Colts
really
scare you
scared of
off
Colts.
anyone at all?
no. I mean, I don't like
The Colts?
Olave as a prospect, but
I don't love that landing spot.
I honestly don't love the Falcons as a landing spot, and I've seen a lot of receivers mock to them at pick 8 overall, but that offense is going to be very bad this year. And not saying, obviously, this is an investment, and you're going to go in knowing it's an investment. You might not get the best return on someone that goes to the Falcons year 1, but they're always going to have Kyle Pitts.
I actually think that could help them. Who do you
Yes
think
and
the
no.
safeties are?
Yeah,
keeping
for
an eye on?
Olave, to me, I like him being in that prime number 2 spot, because the last thing I would want is teams to bracket over under double team him. Because then I think you can take him away.
Yeah,
But if he goes to a spot like you were saying, where it's like, okay, you have to go one-on-one like you have a corner or, God forbid, a safety that has to worry about him going deep, then to me, he's going to eat. Give him that 100. He doesn't need 150 targets. Just give him that 110 rookie year target. And this guy is a guy who could probably put up 1,000 yards and be pretty darn good for your fantasy team and gain a ton of value. But if you ask him to be this number 1 receiver, you ask him to be Tyreek Hill, then I start to get a little bit concerned, because I'm like, well, I don't think he is that.
he's not.
Sure. I just don't think Atlanta gives him that option, because then he's still.
Yeah,
I know
Atlanta
Kyle
would be
Pitts.
great.
Kyle Pitts is still the number 1 receiving option, but the number 1 wide receiver on the outside is going to be Chris Olave.
Well,
That's just not something I would like to see.
Lounis, would you move off Garrett Wilson if he gets picked at 8 to the Falcons? Would you still be wide receiver 1 Garrett Wilson?
Yeah. Yeah, I just would say maybe he doesn't have the best statistical season his rookie year while he has Mariota throwing it to him, but I think in like 2-3 years time he's still going to be the best receiver. And the Falcons doesn't scare me as a landing spot. I actually kind of like it, the pairing with Kyle Pitts. I think Kyle Pitts is always going to draw defensive attention, and it's not like someone's never going to have like a decent number two. Like I think having Jamar Chase on the field helps T Higgins.
See,
Yeah,
I actually
I don't
think
mind.
the landing spot to me is more impactful for someone like Sky Moore, David Bell, Mechie, like these players more so than Olave. I actually think Olave feels pretty landing spot proof,
Yeah.
barring you use him in the role that he should be used in.
Well, all right, let's move on to those guys. Let's just do the next two. So we were just talking about Chris Olave, Sky Moore.
I have
Liz?
one major problem with the consensus rankings.
Which is?
Well, am I allowed to? We're only going to 10 right now, right?
Yeah.
Okay, then I guess
Okay.
I'll hold off on the next year.
All right.
Let's
so
recap
let's just talk
the
about.
top. Let's recap the top 6 so
Ye-
far.
All right,
or
we got
7 did.
Drake London 1, Garrett Wilson 2, Burks 3, George Pickens 4, Jameson Williams 5, Chris Olave 6, Sky Moore 7, and now we're moving on to the next two in Jahan Dotson 8, David Bell at 9. So I think I'm the highest on
Really
David
quickly,
Bell.
just around the
Mhm.
room. Olave, Sky Moore. Are you taking them both in the first round, or either one in the first round? I guess?
More, yes. Olave probably not, unless the quarterback class just does not get drafted in the first round.
Me, other way around. Olave, end of the first, I'd be okay. Like a 111, 112. Sky Moore, super early second.
Yep.
I think I'm with
Lunis
Lunis.
on-
Yeah.
I'm with
I
Lunis
will
as
say
well.
there's a path. There's a very realistic path into Chris Olave being a late first round pick for me, but that would require the likes of Sam Howell, Corral, Malik Willis, those guys not to get drafted in the first round, as well as Isaiah Spiller falling out of
Top
day
3.
2 pick.
All
Yeah,
right.
day 2 pick.
Now let's move on.
Okay, moving on. So looking at Jahan Dotson, David Bell, I think I'm the most polar opposite of everyone here. I have David Bell at 5. I have Jahan Dotson at 14. Sue me. I'm not a Jahan Dotson guy. I'm very much a David Bell guy.
I have a major tier break here between Dotson and Bell, and like the rest.
Oh yeah, you and Jake have Dotson at 6.
Well, even
wow.
if you were to take my 8 Sky Moore compared to Dave, I even though I think I have Sky Moore and David Bell in a similar tier in my actual rankings, from a value standpoint in dynasty drafts right now, I am much more confident in Sky Moore than I would be in David Bell or anyone beyond David Bell in like a startup or a rookie draft right now. Because I like David Bell's tape. I think he's a phenomenal player. But all of the rumblings I've heard is day 3, which I don't agree with.
Yeah,
but
well,
when push comes to shove, day 3, terrible athlete.
That's part of why I have him so low.
If it happens, he's going to take a huge tumble in my rankings. But I'm just
that's part of what has him for me so low right now, because there hasn't been like a single suggestion online saying he's going to even be like a decent day 2 or even day 2 pick at all. So that with his athleticism.
What do you mean? JT's been going on the pod day in and day out, going to bat for David.
JT said it. JT said he is.
All right. I mean, I think the biggest issue with mock drafts is everyone's just repeating the same things. Like I can make a mock draft right now just by looking at 4 other mock drafts, and then boom, I have my mock draft kind of thing. So like teams don't know what analysts don't know what actually is happening in the second and third rounds right now. Like there's no way they have that much inside info. Organizations would just not trust these analysts with that information. So I mean, look at the likes of
a general consensus though on like where.
Guys, I agree with JT. Guys can move up. I thought Amon-Ra was going to be a second round pick.
Yeah, same.
He went to day 3.
Dwayne Eskridge, I never thought would have been taken that high.
That's
Van
fair.
Jefferson, I didn't think. Tutu Atwell, I didn't think would be going that high. There are a lot of players that just get drafted highly for whatever reason. And, I don't know who's considered the best draft analyst currently, but the Daniel Jeremiahs and Mel Kipers of the world, they're wrong all the time. So I don't have. Until I see him go day 3, I'm hoping David Bell is
let's
day
say
2
he
guy.
go's. Let's say he's a late 4th round pick, early 5th round pick.
No, then he's going to tumble.
How much does he jump in your ranking?
Well, I'd take Olave over him at that point. because Olave is just going to be a first round receiver.
I was
So
more curious what if he falls into that Amon Ra range where it's like he goes very, very early day 4, like or day 3, one of the first picks in the fourth round. Like then are we
no,
giving him the Amon Ra pass or are we saying no, day 3 is day 3? Sorry,
no,
man.
because I didn't give Amon Ra a pass anyway. And
I liked Amon Ra, but I think they're very different players, if that makes sense. But
I mean, he's moving down my rankings definitely. Will I still draft him at where his ADP is? Like potentially. I don't know where his ADP will be. Then.
No,
So
I mean, I guess with Amon Ra, he did get the very favorable landing spot in Detroit where it's like, okay, who the hell is going to get all these targets? Which know for sure bet that David Bell, if he is that very early day 3 pick, that he's going to be able to be in a spot where there's just no one for competition at all. I don't know. David Bell is weird right now. I'm not confident in him, but I can also see why he would be a pretty good value pick right now.
yeah, well, if we want to move on to the next guy in the group, he's another one, Justin Ross. Who,
hold on. I don't think we touched on Jahan Dotson enough.
Okay.
Honestly.
Well, let me just group Justin Ross in here for a second. We could touch on all of them. Justin Ross is just the other guy with David Bell, where I'm not confident will get day 2 draft capital, but his is more for medical reasons than anything, and he's just one that I'm hoping will be drafted higher. And if he's not, then he'll fall down in the rankings too. But he had a phenomenal one of the, I think, the best freshman year out of anyone on this list. Obviously, it didn't go so well the following years, but he was battling injuries and everything. And I think he can still produce at the NFL level. Now, Jake, hit us on Dotson. I think you're the highest on Dotson here. If I look at
Me and Frank are.
Yeah, you both have him at 6.
We both have him at our wide receiver 6 here. I touched on him a little bit. I think he's a guy that really just hits every checkbox I want in a receiver on my team. He can run the shallow routes. He can run the intermediate routes, the long routes. He's just a guy that's very versatile. He runs great routes, great hands. I know this drill is one of the stupidest drills in the combine, but that gauntlet drill, I just thought he absolutely killed that drill.
You're really bringing up his gauntlet drill?
I don't know. He looked fantastic in that drill. I don't care. I know it's a stupid drill, but you look at him at Penn State, and he was really, asked to be that number 1 receiver this year, and he filled that role. And every time they needed a play, they went to Jahan Dotson. And I really think he's a guy that is going to be able to do the same thing at the next level. Obviously, maybe not to the extent he did it in the Big Ten, but the Big Ten has good defenses, and it's a very elite football conference. He played against the likes of, Michigan and Ohio State and all these guys, and he looked good despite having not a great quarterback this year. So I think Jahan Dotson is just a guy that I've seen him go in mocks in the first round of the NFL draft. If that's the case, I think to be wide receiver 6 is very underrated. I understand that there's probably going to be 5 other receivers that go ahead of him, but to get a guy that's a first round wide receiver in the early second round of rookie drafts, I think that's an absolute steal. And he's a guy I'm going to be looking to do that with in pretty much all my rookie drafts.
Yeah, I agree. He reminds me a lot of Chris Godwin when Godwin was coming out, where it's like he kind of checks a lot of the boxes. When you watch him, he's a great player. Obviously, not the cleanest tape ever. There are plays where he does struggle, and like the Michigan game, he got shut out a little bit during the Michigan game, but he was still productive and still had great plays in the game. And he went to a good receiver school. A lot of good receivers have come out of Penn State. Not that they've all been necessarily studs, but I think Dotson is easily one of the better ones to come out in recent times. So I agree with Jake. I really like Dotson. Real quick, what player do you think you could get for 103 in a trade? What wide receiver? Skull Dynasty. I was thinking the first one off the top of my head that we were talking about earlier, Terry McLaurin.
For 103,
you could probably get him.
You can get a better receiver.
I'd rather 103 than Terry. Parker's in chat saying could try to get DJ Moore. I would
rather have 103.
Oh, all right. Difference of opinion.
Yeah, I was gonna say I feel like you would struggle to get DJ Moore.
I would smash for DJ Moore.
The other ones I think Devontae Smith. I'm just thinking like realistically you could get if you offered it. Because I think DJ Moore like T. Higgins, all those dudes are going to be more valuable than the pick 103.
I don't- I
T.
don't-
Higgins, I would
You're definitely not
pick
getting T
103 for.
Higgins there, but
That's the thing. Yeah, I don't know if
you're,
getting
you're
Higgins.
not you're not getting T Higgins there, but I think you could get DJ Moore.
You could see if the DK owner has soured because
like that
That's
idea.
a good one. That's a good one.
I don't like that's to me very unrealistic. And if you ask JT, that's unrealistic. But I have seen people on Twitter and Reddit that are like really absurdly low on DK now.
If you could get DK, 100% do that.
But other than that, I mean, you could take a receiver at 103 and you're having a pretty good time.
Yeah, I mean, Brees Hall is almost a lock for 101.
You'll pretty much
Yeah,
have
Joe
your
Herbert's
choice
right,
of
Elijah
wide receiver.
Moore. I'm not really a huge fan of paying 103 for
Yeah,
Elijah
I wouldn't give
Moore,
up
though.
103 for Elijah
No.
Moore. I'd rather just.
If
in
you
my
like
opinion,
Elijah Moore
Burks,
last
you guys are
that much,
London.
you should have just traded for like an early second last year for a way cheaper price.
Well, we know now Elijah Moore is a solid receiver. We don't know. We didn't know then that he. You know.
Can I speak on the wide receiver 11 here? 'Cause I've been waiting for a couple.
Yeah. Okay. Now we can talk about it.
No.
So here's my problem with you three. So sometimes in dynasty football analysis and scouting, you know, sometimes
All right, hold on. Time
you just get hold on. Let me finish. I need to finish this. I'm asking for 30 seconds, 30 more seconds.
I'll
30
give
more
you the
seconds.
30 seconds in 10 seconds. Be very careful what you're about to say right here, because I will hold whatever you're about to say against you
Okay,
for the rest of the
hold on.
time. Okay, now go ahead.
Sometimes you just go too deep into the research, too deep into the spreadsheets, too deep into the numbers, and you're just head down working. And then you look up and you realize that you have your head up your ass. And you have a wide receiver who's supposed to go day 3, 2 spots ahead of a wide receiver who's supposed to be a first-round pick in Christian Watson. Christian Watson being wide receiver 11 here is egregious. It's abysmal. It's insulting. Quite frankly, I'm offended. These
You got any more superlatives there, Lounis? You want to keep going? You were on a roll there.
How long did it take for you to come up with
I was
this?
holding that in for like 10 minutes. I was just waiting to get Christian Watson. And we got fucking Justin Ross going ahead of him. For me, just Christian Watson is in the same tier as Dotson. I would have had him right there around 7, 8. I have him 8 here. And then literally Dotson 9. I want to hear from you guys why you guys are so low on Christian. He has kind of a wide receiver 1 build. He has the speed and the size.
Because he's not a wide receiver 1 with the wide receiver 1 build.
I didn't finish.
You want to know
Good
who you
hands,
just described there,
pretty
Lounis?
good. What?
Tyrell
described-
Williams.
Tyrell Williams isn't going in the first round. And
Tyrell Williams.
I think Christian Watson is on a different tier as an athlete and
See, the
even
thing
just
is-
an overall receiver.
I can see, like, to me, Christian Watson, like, yes, I see another Mike Wallace, potentially. But at the same time, for every single potential Mike Wallace, you get 9 Tyrell Williamses. And this is the classic, the NFL teams are going to value him more than they should, and the fantasy players definitely should, because they're fast as fuck and they're big, you know? And, you know, you see the potential, like, oh, you have the John Grudens that are sitting in Hooters, down in beers, eating some wings, looking at booty, and like, oh, dude, Tyrell Williams, he's going to be the nasty wide receiver 2, deep threat in our offense, as they glug down another Miller Lite. Dude, it's just not a great bet. It's just not. And if he gets relevant draft capital, it's just going to be worse, because then you're going to have the Carls come in and start taking him early second. But guess what? I'm all for it, because that lets me land my Jahan Dotson's 1 pick later. So go ahead, Lounis. Call us idiots. Call us spreadsheet head up our ass motherfuckers. I don't care, because I'm not taking the next Tyrell Williams.
The price thing you just said here, we're doing just the rankings, not who are you taking at each of their prices.
Dude, we are talking about a guy that should be Calvin Johnson, and he couldn't put up 1,000 yards playing for North Dakota State.
Yeah, look at the film, man. I know
I
you looked
did
at the
look
film.
at the film.
I know you did.
I did look at
He's
the
a
film.
playmaker.
The guy catches 3 balls a game.
He's a playmaker. I don't think
3
the
balls a
offense did him
game.
favors. I just can't. Do you genuinely believe that this wide receiver who's probably going to go day 3 is going to have a better fantasy career than Christian Watson, probably a late first?
He played in the Big Ten.
I don't care who played. Well, congratulations.
Compared to the FCS, it's like a different league. It's just not even the same.
What you guys are failing to recognize is Christian Watson is the Tampa Tornado, and he
is the Tampa. I love that nickname, the Tampa Tornado.
No, Christian Watson's going to be Denzel Mims, like just super athletic wide receiver who didn't,
Oh, don't do that.
I'm sorry, I like
better than Denzel Mims. That's the worst thing you could have said.
What do you want me to do? I said it. It's out there. I said it. Christian Watson's Denzel Mims. He might be a little better than Denzel Mims, but that just means he's on an NFL roster at this point in year 2.
Yeah, I just think that Mike Wallace was an outlier. If Christian Watson succeeds, he's going to be an outlier. And at the price that he's at, that I'm seeing at least, now it's not in every draft, but if I'm not taking him with a mid-second, I'm not taking him with an early second. I look at the stats, I look at the film. The guy catches 3 balls a game. 3 balls a game. How do you do that? This is my player. This is literally a player.
He was busting everyone's ass in the Senior Bowl.
I don't care. I don't care about the Senior Bowl.
He should care. That's from all those. That's from those Big Ten schools.
Calvin Austin. Calvin Austin had a great Senior Bowl, but guess what? The dude was running loop-de-loop routes, the 50-yard routes.
Yeah, and
you think any good of these corners are covering a guy for 50 yards?
What's his draft capital?
I'd rather draft Calvin Austin at his price than fucking Christian Watson at his.
By the way, I saw in the chat like the drop issues. I'm not like
that's drops don't matter.
No.
Drops don't matter.
Drops don't matter when you're Jamar Chase. When you're Christian Watson, they fucking matter because you're not as good as Jamar Chase.
Drops don't matter. Skull Dynasty saying that was my take, JC Awesome. I think he means the Denzel Mims thing. Yeah, I called someone else Denzel Mims too last year. I think
the worst.
I said
Big Brian did have a good Senior Bowl.
I think I called Terrace Marshall who we wanted Denzel Mims to be. I was wrong. He's just also
he is Mims. Who we wanted Denzel Mims to be.
Yeah, he's also Denzel Mims. So
we did hate Denzel Mims, so at least to me, Lounis, and Jake, that is who we wanted Denzel Mims.
This year, Christian Watson gets Denzel Mims. Denzel Mims kiss of death.
Dude, Joe Herbert's right. The Senior Bowl drills are designed for wide receivers to win. He's right. They are placed, these poor corners have to go one-on-one the entire length of the field. And it's like the wide receivers are praised for running 50-yard routes.
But I'm not only basing on the compare him to how the other receivers did there. He was obviously like a standout that entire practice week. Every single person that was there every single day was saying Christian Watson standing out amongst all the wide receivers.
He was. You want to know why he was a standout? Because it was raining so hard. The only thing that people could see was the scales on the indoors. They're seeing, okay, this guy's 6'5", 205 pounds, and runs a 4.340. That's why they're saying he's a standout.
Hey man, they just
look at who stood out in the 2021 Senior Bowl.
They will say Christian. I mean, you're right. But
no. 2021. So quarterbacks was Mac Jones, fine. Sam Ellinger also.
Dwayne Eskridge was probably the biggest winner.
Michael Carter, Khalil Herbert.
Tony,
those two were pretty good.
Except he couldn't catch
Khalil Herbert and Michael Carter.
They said Elijah Mitchell struggled, so we saw how that has gone so far. Standouts: Dwayne Eskridge, Josh Palmer, Demetric Felton, Kadarius Toney, Tylan Wallace, Des Fitzpatrick, Amari Rogers, Nico Collins. How many of those guys do you want, Lounis? How many of them?
How many of them are going?
Yeah, but the thing is, too, that if we go a couple years ago, Deebo Samuel was a good standout. Like, I don't think this is a healthy debate because you're going to have some good hits, you're going to have some bad hits. Like, I think we're better off looking at some other stuff, like the fact that Christian Watson didn't average more than 4 catches a fucking game.
Yeah. Just not the production's just not there for.
I just wanted to remember. I was the only one who had them in their top 10 receivers.
Okay, we have your quote, which we will hold against you.
It's fine, Lounis. It's fine. I don't think I'll lose any sleep.
Moving on. So I'll just go through the list.
Damn, this is the Hate Lounis episode.
I'm
Well, kid's
dying a
got
martyr.
Jameson Williams at
I'm
2.
dying a martyr. I'm ahead of my time.
Jameson Williams.
We need
2,
to
Christian
flag this
Watson 8.
episode so I can come back to it at the end of next season. Just laugh at it.
We should
Laugh at
go
all
back
three
and
of
look
you.
at previous episodes more often.
I
But
don't need to. It's fine.
all right, for the podcasters, yeah. Drake London 1, Garrett Wilson 2, Traylon Burks 3, George Pickens 4, Jameson Williams 5, Chris Olave 6, Sky Moore 7, Jahan Dawson 8, David Bell 9, Justin Ross 10, Christian Watson 11. And that brings us to our next two in John Mechie and Alex Pierce, 12 and 13.
Those are both my two exact rankings for them too.
You
Are they-
know
oh, yeah,
the interesting thing I have about John Mechie, because I was finishing up my scouting report on John Mechie today, and I think I have the longest blurb written about him than any other prospect in the 40 or so that I have graded this year.
Let's see it. Let's hear it.
And it's because, he's like that master of none, jack of all trades kind of guys. But at the same time, he is a really smart receiver. He understands the spacing and zone coverages really well. Dude, there's this one play. Hold on, I got to bring it up. There's this, it was against Miami week 1, I believe. It was a really long touchdown to Lounis's boy, Jameson Williams. And this is this is going to be a little bit ridiculous when you hear it, but it gives me a lot of hope for him as a prospect. Hold on, I got to get the thing on the screen here. I'm struggling. Here we go. Look at this. So this is this long play here where Jameson Williams cuts in and then out, and then they have John Mechie going and looping all the way over, right? And he's pointing this out here. He's pointing. Initially, I was like, okay, where the hell is he pointing? He's pointing to this safety that is just out of position. This safety should be way more in the middle of the field, and he's pointing to this safety because he knows that Jameson Williams on this look is going to be wide open. And that is exactly what happens. The safety is out of position, is unable to catch up to Jameson Williams, and they have a wide open touchdown, like a 90-yard touchdown. And to me, that, especially as a slot receiver who that's what he's projected to be, he doesn't just play in the slot. He plays on the outside at Alabama. He can play both the positions. I think that little things like that, NFL teams are going to love, and it could suit him phenomenally well because he has decent routes. He's not a terrible athlete. He's just not a dude who creates amazing separation and is this super stud. But if he's that smart of a receiver, why can't he be an Edelman? Why can't he be what Cooper Kupp was before this season? Not the 2,000 yards, but just a really smart, good receiver who plays primarily in the slot, but can also play on the outside.
Now,
I like that you mentioned that, Frank, because I think I'm actually the highest on Mechie here. I have him at wide receiver 9. He reminds me a lot of Jarvis Landry, and I don't think that's the biggest flashy comparison you're going to make, but he's a guy that's going to get consistent production, and he's going to get, he's not going to be your receiver 1 on your fantasy team. He's not going to be, you're not going to be happy with him as your wide receiver 2, but I honestly think at the end of the day, you look and you go, okay, Jarvis Landry had another 1,000-yard season with 5 touchdowns. And great. That's what I think you could see with John Mechie here is just him fill a nice role on the offense and fill a nice spot on your fantasy team is that wide receiver 3, flex play every week. And to get that, and I think he's going in his ADP is end of round 2 of rookie drafts.
Yeah, he's a late second.
Early third, I've seen him go a lot.
Yeah, to get a guy like that who could be a consistent every week flex play wide receiver 3, that's an absolute steal. And I think his floor is a lot higher than a lot of the guys that we've already even talked about.
I actually really like that comp.
You guys convinced me. I
like that comp. I actually kind of want to flip him and David Bell because I'm lower on David Bell now after the whole Christian Watson argument.
I think the thing is with David Bell is that David Bell's ceiling is really, really high.
No, it's high.
But his floor is also 0.
Yeah, I mean you're right. You're not wrong.
Yeah, the floor is Seth Williams.
I think we can all agree that Mechie isn't a stud, but for his price, he's good.
I do like him. I think the thing I wanted to say, why I think some people are scared off by it, but I don't agree with it because I actually think he's a better prospect than the other guy I'm about to bring up was at the time. I think people are just comparing him to KJ Hamler. I've seen a lot of that online
He's not him.
with Mechie and Hamler, like saying, "Oh, it's just going to kind of be similar to that." I think Mechie is going to be a better NFL receiver, and even Hamler, like this year, started the show a little bit before he got hurt early in the season. I like Mechie at the end of the second round. I don't think I could go up to mid-second. Could any of you go up to mid-second for Jack? Like, what's the earliest?
I
you're
mean,
taking
I could
Mechie?
go up to pick like 208,
Yeah, I think 208 is
probably,
the highest
something
I
like
could go for
that.
Mechie.
something around there would be probably
think-
fine. Maybe slightly higher depending on how the board falls. I don't know. Quarterback's going to play a big role in that, just based on how to make the fall out the first round. So
Yeah, I'm kind of with Jake. It would be more of a product of other players falling more so than Mechie rising. Like if David Bell goes 5th round and a lot of the quarterbacks go later and
Yeah.
this, that, and the other, like Brian Robinson goes a lot later than I thought. Trey McBride, all the tight ends end up kind of going in trash spots. Okay, then Mechie might rise up into that middle second. But not because Mechie is some world beater. But I mean, push comes to shove. Mechie to me, he's just a guy that I would want on my football team. He's a damn football player. He hits people.
that's
He's a good little receiver. He's smart. He checks a lot of the boxes that you just like as a football player.
Does it affect your opinion at all that he's Canadian?
No, I actually
Nikhil
like that. He was recruited to the U.S. to play football.
There was-
So was Nikhil
was-
Harry.
There is
I
a
forget
receiver
where.
last year who was Canadian.
Josh
Josh
Palmer.
Claypool?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Josh Palmer and Nikhil Harry Claypool. I think they're the. I don't know. There might be a couple more Canadian receivers.
Joe Herbert. Mechie doesn't excite anyone. He is boringly efficient. Yeah, and you see a lot of those guys be very effective in fantasy. We've seen it from Jarvis Landry, Cole Beasley. We've seen it. Like these guys aren't super flashy, but they put up the numbers you want.
I mean, I'm gonna be honest. After Justin Ross, who has so many red flags for me too, but I still kind of just like him. I don't see any of these guys being top 24 wide receivers. They kind of like their ceiling to me is like, mid to maybe high end wide receiver 3 at this point.
Well, I want to get into Alec Pierce a little bit because Alec Pierce is someone that I find very interesting. Now, I'm not the highest person on Alec Pierce. You have a small community of people that really love Alec Pierce, and I can kind of understand why. The game that you have to play with Alec Pierce is like the Donovan Peoples-Jones game. Is he just kind of I win vertically? He primarily wins with this classic jab to the inside, dip of inside shoulder, and then once he's even, he's leaving because he's fast and he's big and he can win at the catch point. So like, is he just a deep threat, or is he going to develop the other parts of his game that could make him into a top 24, top 30 fantasy receiver where a team is going to want to get him a couple of little screens here and there to put the ball in his hands. They're going to target him on the intermediate routes. They're going to target him in these other areas and use him in these other areas instead of just being a dude that's big, can block, and threaten you vertically. That's the big question for me with Alec Pierce. I'm going to lean more to the Donovan Peoples-Jones, unfortunately. I like him more than I liked DPJ coming out, but that doesn't mean that I think that Alec Pierce is some world beater. Now, at the same time, I think he's better than Donovan Peoples-Jones. So it's like he's in this weird little spot where it's like I don't like him enough to really target him at the price, but I can respect the upside and the flashes that he's shown and things of that nature.
He is a weird one for me as well. His yak ability, not great.
It's pretty trash.
Yeah.
It's pretty trash.
But you're right. It's just a question of like, was that team or was that him? I don't know. And I don't want to do it again because it feels like I'm going to have to come up with a different receiver. But he just feels like he could be another Denzel Mims too.
What is it with you, man?
My bad.
I mean, the other thing too that's
I have him
weird
kind
is
of high
that
right here.
You look at that
I'm
Bama
old.
game. You look at the stat line, right? He had like 2 catches for 20 yards. And you're like, man, that sucks. Bama locked him up. But then you look at the game and like he was getting open. It's just that Cincinnati offensive line couldn't block anything. You know, poor Desmond Ritter's running out there for his life. Like he can't target him. So it's a weird evaluation. I'm probably just not going to end up with any Alex Pierces on my team.
I mean, we'll look at. I think he's got round 3 ADP, right? Yeah. So we'll talk about him in a little bit at where he's going. I guess I would be willing to draft him at around ADP, but I don't know. I'm not excited about him. He's just gonna be someone that I'd stick on my taxi and hope for the best. Now, I think we should just move on to 14. Wan'Dale Robinson, kind of someone that we were super high on. I don't know, maybe 2 months ago. Uh, but there's a lot of questions about like his athleticism and his size and what like how productive could he be in the NFL. He kind of just feels like a worse version of Rondale Moore last year. Rondale Moore had the better production, he had the better athleticism. I think Rondale Moore might have been even bigger than Wan'Dale Robinson, believe it or not. So to me, while I still do like Rondale Moore, and he's kind of fallen in terms of ADP, Wan'Dale Robinson, I just have more questions on, and I can't be as high as him as I once was, maybe like just as early as 2 months ago.
You want to know what the issue is? Is who is that wide receiver slash quarterback that also played for Kentucky? He got drafted by the Raiders and then went to the Dolphins. What was his name?
Oh yes, Lynn Bowden.
Lynn Bowden. I think the problem with Wan'Dale Robinson is he's kind of like a Lynn Bowden, where he's got the sauce. I mean, he makes people miss. It takes multiple defenders to tackle him whenever he gets the ball, but he just isn't developed enough as a receiver. And physically speaking, at that size, to me, you either have to be incredibly talented as a receiver and basically play outside of your body, kind of like a Darnell Mooney would. Or to me, a guy like Jahan Dotson would, where it's like, okay, he's 5'11, 190, but he plays like he's 6'1, 195. Wan'Dale Robinson like consistently body catches the ball. He was consistently a gadget player. He's fast, but he's not like game breaking fast. I mean, there's going to be plenty of D backs in the NFL that are quicker and faster than he is. So to me, how does he win? And how does he win consistently enough to where I'm putting him in my fantasy lineup? Too many questions. I don't have him in my top 15.
Yeah, I threw him at the very end of mine just because like his ability to make people miss and make plays in the SEC was impressive. But like I kind of agree with you with most of your points. He kind of fits in that same mold. Do you remember those like Oregon guys that used to always get hyped up years ago?
Yeah.
Like D.M.P. Thomas, Josh Huff, LaMichael James, I think. Like he's kind of like one of those guys to me. Like I really like him. He's a playmaker on the cut. His size worries me, and I just don't like kind of what to your point. What is he gonna do successfully to like NFL defenses? Like I could see him being like a pretty sick returner and stuff, and he'll have a place in the NFL. How do you see him beating defenses? Like because he's
he's
smaller
going to
than
be like an
Rondale Moore.
Isaiah McKenzie.
Yeah, exactly. He's smaller than Rondale Moore. I saw a picture of him and
Yeah.
Rondale Moore standing next to each other, and Rondale Moore is bigger than him.
Yeah, and
I think
Rondale
Rondale-
Moore also has like a 41-inch vertical, which helps a
Yeah.
little bit out with the undersized issue, right? Like,
Yeah, exactly. So it's tough for him.
yeah, I'm just
Um,
not drafting Wan'Dale Robinson. I actually think his ADP is like wildly too high.
I also, speaking of that, I don't know if he gets day 2 capital in the NFL draft. I don't. I haven't really
I think he
seen
goes.
anywhere
I think he
it
goes beginning of the fourth.
You know, the one argument you can have is that if a team is like they want an Isaiah McKenzie type of player, where it's like, okay, we're looking for just a wide receiver 3/4, a dude that has experience returning kicks. I mean, I doubt he'd be a gunner on special teams, but maybe that's part of the argument. I mean, maybe that's why he would be drafted a little bit higher. Things of like that.
Maybe
More
teams
so
want him to play
than,
like
oh,
that.
we're trying to draft a top 36
Yeah.
points per game fantasy player. Like, I don't think that's
I just see him
that's
being
coming
kind of
in.
like Deontay Harris for the Saints, kind of how he's used. with a safety receiver like that, where they just try to get the ball in his hands sometimes. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree, Benjamin Paul. I like Calvin Austin more than Wan'Dale Robinson as well. Yeah, I guess
Awesome.
I want to go into the next guy. Jalen Tolbert. Jalen Tolbert's interesting. I kind of for a while now I've had Jalen Tolbert and Khalil Shakir at around like the same exact spot. But I got into the film more on these guys, and I like Jalen Tolbert significantly more than I like Khalil Shakir. To me, Jalen Tolbert is a dude that like very low key has number one receiver potential in the NFL. He's fast. He can play physical. Like he's not a wowzer, but like he's almost feels like a Tim Patrick to me, where it's like he's going to be that dude that can low key win against one on one coverage. It's not going to be the sexiest, and he can win in a couple different ways. He's great at these contested catches, and he's fast. So he can do everything you want him to do. He's just not the craziest receiver in the NFL. He's not that absolute stud, but he could be a pretty darn good player. Where Khalil Shakir, the guy was primarily a running back in high school. I mean, he has good hands, but his routes just don't match up for his athleticism. He's way shiftier, way faster, and way quicker with the ball in his hands than he is in his routes, at his releases, and at the top of his routes, which I think is probably part of just inexperience, maybe just a lack of development for whatever reason it is. I'm just out on him. I just don't like it at all. To me, I think he's a below average receiver, even though he has these really flashy contested catches and great body control, and he's good with the ball in his hands. I don't see him winning consistently and creating enough separation to play in the slot. And I don't think he's big enough and good enough with his releases to play on the outside. I don't see where he fits in. So he's kind of went from like sleeper to me to not drafting him. All right, JT, we're getting you back in here.
We lost him.
Yeah, we lost JT. We lost the soldier, but he's back.
Hate to see it.
It's doing that thing where I can't hear Lounis again though. So
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, I mean, based on some of his takes today.
Do you want to leave and come back? I'll add you back real quick.
Who, me or Loon?
Yeah, how do we fix it last time?
I think Lounis had to leave last time.
All right, Lounis. Sorry, man.
Kicking Lounis out of town.
I understand.
You have any thoughts on Khalil Shakir, Jalen Tolbert, JT? Jake?
I like Jalen Tolbert. I think you kind of hit on all the big points with him, so I'm not going to go too much into him, but I just think he's a guy that I will be trying to get in the third round of rookie drafts pretty much very consistently. So
Tolbert's older than like Justin Jefferson. I'm out on Tolbert.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that with Tolbert, you're not going to draft like the next sleeper wide receiver like Terry McLaurin, I don't think, but I think he's a good player.
I will say like Khalil Shakir is like not much younger than Tolbert, but I do like Khalil Shakir a little bit more.
I guess lastly, Calvin Austin, I want to touch on him because I thought he was going to fit into that Wan'Dale Robinson tier where it's just like, I like him. He's a fun player to watch, but he just doesn't fit. But then I went and I watched I tried at least. There's very little on YouTube. I had to sift through highlights. His game against Cincinnati in 2020, where he had to go up against Sauce Gardner for most of it. And it's not like he was winning a ton of reps, but he was going toe to toe with one of, at least to me, one of the best cornerback prospects of this past like 10 years or so, which I found very impressive. I think a lot of people are assuming he's a pure slot guy, but I saw him play for Memphis primarily on the outside. He has extremely creative and shifty releases. Now he's not like the best receiver on the face of the earth. He can get bullied on his routes by physical corners, but for a very low key pick that like right now you can get beyond the 20th round of a startup, you can probably get in like the 4th round, very late third of a rookie draft. I actually kind of like Calvin Austin.
Is Lounis back? Rip
No.
Lounis. Take so bad they got kicked out.
Yeah,
Cal-
we might have lost Lounis, but that's okay.
Calvin Austin, he's another one. He's small. He's old. No, thank you. I don't know. It's pretty simple for me.
Let me see if I can get Lunas back in here.
All right, I'm gonna transition us to, well, maybe if Lunas gets back in here, we could ask him for his last takes. But I think it would be also a good time
don't
to
need to
just
do that.
move on to yeah, we don't need here. We'll do everyone a favor. um, let's just move on to the rookie ADP. Now, I feel like this is pretty easy for the first few players. So how we're gonna do it is, if there's not much to add on these players, we're just gonna move on and kind of ignore them. All right, hold on, I'm gonna fix this. So, Frank, I don't know if you have the rookie ADP up yet because you're trying to save Lunas here.
No, we can just say it. Like, okay, start off Brees Hall, RB1.
Yeah, Brees
Number
Hall,
one
running
pick in the
back
draft.
one. I don't think any, like, there's some small debates here and there about it, but I think for the most part it's pretty clear. Brees
Yeah, he's
Hall.
RB5 overall. Currently the number 22 asset. Let me take out the picks. He is, I think, the number 21 player in fantasy football currently.
So, I think it's fair. Running backs are just a weird position to me. He's pretty young, so that's already an added boost. He's going to get high draft capital. He's productive. Yeah. We don't have to add much more on Brees Hall. Drake London, I think Lewis is the only one that would disagree with how high he's being taken. While he's not my wide receiver one, I don't mind him at this price. Personally, for me, I think the first landmine we kind of hit is Malik Willis at pick 3. Just because I think there's going to be so many people that look at the likes of Trey Lance, Justin Fields, those kind of players, and they're going to be like, Jalen Hurts is actually probably the best example, because it's like, well, Malik Willis, he doesn't have to be that good of a passer. Like, he could just run. And to me, I think that's a very dangerous game you're starting to play, where it's, yeah, but he like might not even be good enough to get on the field. So
I don't know, because I'm off and on about Malik Willis. Like, I think that Malik Willis really impressed me at the Senior Bowl with the fact that it seemed like of all the top quarterbacks that were there, he was the one picking up the offense and running the offense with the most comfort. Which, I mean, it was just a little bit weird to see, because that was a lot of the knocks on him at Liberty, was that he would kind of start ad-libbing too quickly and give up on the plays too quickly. And that, he got kicked out of Ole Miss or Auburn, right? Because, he wasn't doing well there, and he wasn't, he got beat out by fucking Bo Nix. Like, so on top of the physical talent, like, I think that he is checking a good amount of boxes, but then again, I'm not targeting him in any of these startups I'm doing. Like, I'm regularly passing on him in favor of different quarterbacks. So I kind of agree and disagree with you. I agree that where he is in the draft right now feels a little bit rich. I almost kind of
Yeah.
want to pick him up more at like pick 5 or 6, more so than pick 3.
Jacob Smith says, how we know Trey Lance is good, couldn't even see the field.
I mean, first he's pick 3 in the draft, so
you could take this two separate ways. I think I'll try and do both.
Yeah, but you could make that same argument with, based on mock drafts where Malik Willis is going. We've seen him as high as pick 2 in the mock drafts, and then a lot of times pick 6 to the Carolina. So,
well, all right, hold on. Let me do this, right? Jacob Smith, how we know Trey Lance is good, couldn't even see the field. Well, he did against Seattle and Houston and Arizona, and he was fine in those games. Like, he wasn't world beater or everything, but he definitely showed some solid flashes. But also, you're right. Like, we're not sure Trey Lance is good. But what I am sure about is Trey Lance was a much better prospect than Malik Willis. We saw San Francisco gave up essentially 3 draft picks to get Trey Lance. That's not going to happen with Malik Willis. I don't know if Malik Willis goes as high as 6. I don't even know if Malik Willis goes in the first round. If Malik Willis isn't in the first round or isn't even in like a top 5 pick, I don't want anything to do with Malik Willis as pick number 3 in this rookie draft. Like, it's just, that's way too much of an investment into a quarterback that I don't necessarily think is that good. He's a much worse prospect than Trey Lance. And at the price of pick 3 in this rookie draft. That's too rich.
Didn't get beat out. Bo Nix's dad was a big donor. Politics were. I actually wouldn't be surprised if politics were involved there.
I also wouldn't be surprised, but I'm out on Willis. DFB Encounter tweeted out something a few weeks ago or maybe this was just last week. First round quarterbacks that were drafted after pick 3 that were mobile but weren't very good college passers. I don't know exactly what stats he has that goes into this, but you got Josh Allen in there, which, okay. But then you have Josh Freeman, EJ Manuel, Christian Ponder, Jake Locker, Daniel Jones, Blaine Gabbert, Paxton Lynch, and I feel like he's much more like those next guys than Josh Allen. That's my take on Malik Willis as a high price to pay for Malik Willis.
Yeah, I don't. I think it's more so the pick 3 and the security that I would get out of drafting Garrett Wilson or Treylon Burks than I don't know, because I'm so off and on, because I actually do really like Malik Willis as a player, and he's fun. He's fucking awesome. The dude's great. Like it's just a little pricey.
He's flashy, but it's just no. I'm not drafting Malik Willis that high.
Because the other thing too, though, is that Malik Willis is going like 2 rounds higher than some of these receivers like Drake London and Garrett Wilson and Treylon Burks. So it's like that
you're talking in startup ADP.
Yeah, in startup. So I think there's a good chance he's going to end up as pick 2 in rookie drafts, not pick 3.
Yeah, to me that's just crazy. All right, I don't really have an issue with the next few guys, especially everyone in this tier 2. I wish Treylon Burks was ranked higher, but that just means I could get him for cheaper. Jameson Williams, Chris Olave, fine. Again, Kenny Pickett, but if Kenny Pickett's a first-round pick, I understand it. But to me, he's just someone, again, I'm very much out on.
Wait, hold on. We're going a little bit fast here. So, okay,
right.
Garrett Wilson, 4th overall, wide receiver 2. No qualms.
Fine.
Kenneth Walker at 5. I'm taking Treylon Burks over him, and
overall they're in that same tier 2, and I don't have a huge issue with it.
I don't hate taking. I like Treylon Burks a lot more, but I don't hate taking the running back over the wide receiver here.
I mean, like if we're assuming at least a late 2nd round pick, draft capital, maybe even very early 3rd, but to a team that definitely needs a running back where he can projected be that for the most part RB1. Yeah, you're right. Fine. I don't have any qualms with him at number 5. Treylon Burks at 6 feels really freaking good.
Yeah.
At least to me, Jameson Williams at 7, I like a lot as well. I think that's a good price to pay for him. Olave at 8, I think it's a little pricey, but I mean, we're starting to get into that late 1st round. Like, I don't hate it. I would take Pickens over him. I think that Kenny Pickett at 9, though, is not I'm not a Kenny Pickett guy. I'm
Me neither.
I would not want to pick 9.
Right. But I'm just going to play devil's advocate here just because I'm not a Kenny Pickett guy either. But I'm the guy that always says if a quarterback gets 1st-round draft capital in the NFL, they should be a 1st-round pick in rookie drafts, and I'm going to stick to it. If he gets a 1st-round pick capital in the NFL draft, whether that's pick 6 to Carolina, whether that's pick 20 to the Steelers, who knows where he falls. He has a big range of outcomes here. But if he's a 1st-round pick, I don't mind taking him at 9 if you're a quarterback needy team. It's just at the end of the day, like, sure, do I feel better taking the likes of Spiller, Pickens, Olave, Jameson Williams, like all those guys? Absolutely. But if you're really desperate for a wide receiver and you're picking at pick 9, 10, 11, and Kenny Pickett's on the board, I don't think it's a horrible.
If you're desperate for a quarterback, you meant to say, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
If he's pick 15 or earlier, I feel a little better about taking him that high. But if he's a late 1st-round pick, I
have 2 hard fades right now in this NFL draft class.
Okay.
Kenny Pickett is one of them.
Welcome back to this. Yeah.
I like you mentioned all those guys, Josh Freeman, Blaine Gabbert. Like, I don't think we should be using those guys for Malik Willis. I think we should be using those guys for Kenny Pickett. Like, I'm sorry, I don't want to pick him. I understand he has the upside.
Worse. Kenny Pickett's arguably a worse prospect than a good chunk of those guys that I listed. Like, he's had one good year for Pitt. And
I don't know. It's funny because I want him to succeed. You know, he's from around our area. I think he's a good guy. I'm not taking him with my ninth overall pick. Get the fuck out of here. I am
Yeah.
not taking it with the ninth overall pick over George Pickens. No shot.
No, no shot. But like I said, I was playing devil's advocate. I could see why he's up there.
I mean, yeah, if he goes crazy early in the draft, if he goes top 10, or like if he goes to Carolina at 6, maybe I'll reevaluate. But right now, no way am I taking him in the top 10. I mean, I might take him in like the middle of the second round. But like I'd rather take
Pickett, right?
I'd rather take Matt
Mhm.
Corral right now over him straight up.
I think. Wait, you said late second round for Pickett. If he goes in the first round of the NFL draft, I'm taking him. If he goes first round NFL draft, I feel like the lowest he can drop is early second. And I feel like in a lot of leagues he probably won't.
the issue though is if he goes. So first off, I said like pick 15 and earlier. I'm fine with it. The issue is if he goes any later, like he's not going to be starting for any of these teams, unless a team trades up, obviously. But like,
Maybe if it's a team like the Saints, so like 16.
Yeah, but what if he gets Jordan Loved, where it's like he just goes to it? There's a team that you're like, why the hell are they taking a quarterback? Takes him.
Because I think
go to the Packers.
if he
They do it again.
Oh, no, 'cause
They trade up to take Kenny Pickett.
They can just pick him at like 28 if they want.
that'd be so fucking funny. But okay, let's say he goes to the Saints in a similar like a Jordan Love situation where like he goes to the Saints at 18. He's not expected to, or Jameis is expected to be the starter.
Yeah, but
I think
that's
it
different. You don't have Aaron Rodgers in your head. You have Jameis Winston. That's very different.
That's a good point.
No, I mean that's fair, but I mean like who's taking him in the first round with like an Aaron? I don't envision someone making the same mistake Green Bay did.
All right, he gets picked by Tennessee. Are you really scared by Tannehill that much?
I'm pro
Tannehill's
Pickett.
good.
Not but I like Pickett. He should be a first round. He should.
significantly
I mean, no,
better.
I stand true to the philosophy of if a quarterback goes first round, he should go first round in your rookie draft, even if it's late first round.
I think it's gotta be.
Yeah,
top
you can
15.
take him at pick 9, Lunis. Yeah, right. Him and Christian Watson. You could take Christian Watson too.
All right, I didn't say Christian Watson.
All right, Lewis. Look at the top 9, top 10, I guess, players. Any true issues here before we move on? I kind of called out Malik Willis feels
Jameson
high.
being in the next tier, but okay.
Oh my God.
We'll move over.
We'll just move on.
Besides that, it seems fine. Spiller dropped a bit, but
I think he's
I
still
don't
going to
know.
drop at this
All
rate.
right. Yeah,
Maybe
George
8 or
Pickens,
6.
wide receiver 6 at pick 10 feels phenomenal.
Feels
Yeah.
real good. I would take him much higher than that, but not much, but a little higher than that.
I'd take him over Kenny Pickett, that's for sure.
feels
Yes, sir.
very average, like average community.
I think
11.
Matt Corral is a better quarterback than
Yeah.
Kenny Pickett.
Yeah, agreed. Isaiah Spiller at 11, I think, is still too high. Simply put,
Damn.
I mean, like here's the issue. We have Mr. Brian Robinson over here all the way down at 24, who I just think is objectively at least as good as Isaiah Spiller, right? Maybe not better, but I think they're pretty darn similar, at least to me. Yet this one's going 13 picks higher. That's
Yeah.
my qualm.
I mean, I don't agree that the tier gap or the talent gap between them is that much in terms of their ADP, but I do still think Spiller's a better talent than Brian Robinson. But I don't think it's that big a gap.
Yeah, I think more so Brian Robinson should just get pushed up to like I don't know
I
what
agree.
Rashad White shows that Brian Robinson.
Yeah,
does,
no,
you
I
know what I'm
agree.
saying? Like,
Yeah.
No idea.
Now, I've also been seeing conflicting reports where there was one dude saying that NFL teams love Isaiah Spiller and he expects him to go very early second. And then I saw another dude saying basically the opposite thing, that he thinks that Isaiah Spiller is going day 3. So it's
I've seen a lot of day 2. I think for Spiller, if he doesn't go day 2, I'm not touching him in the first.
I mean, if we try and understand the motivations about it, right? If I'm Isaiah Spiller's agent, I'm getting it out there that my guy's a day 2 pick. I don't know what the motivation is behind saying Isaiah Spiller is the day 3 guy.
If he
other
goes,
than him
Like,
Yeah,
being a
I
Jacob
would
day 3
Smith
guy.
is right. Isaiah Spiller, I'm pretty sure is like a good 2 or 3 years younger. I might be
yeah, he's
wrong
21. He's 21.
than Brian Robinson. So like that is one thing I will give Spiller. I've been kind of the Spiller hater, but if you were projecting progression in his game, especially in his ability to run in between the tackles, then I can understand more why you want him at pick 11. But for the player that he is right now, and from what I saw watching him, I do not want to take him with a first round pick.
If he goes 18, I'm
Uh,
fine with it. Like if he's like an early third or something, I might even take him earlier than 111.
For me to increase his stock, I want to see him go in the top 50 picks in the NFL draft, or like 55 picks.
Yeah.
That will change my opinion.
So if he goes late second, you're still not touching him in the first round?
Very late second, I don't really
Yeah, like very, very late second.
care. Maybe if the landing spot was so phenomenal that it's like, okay, well, they have to give him the ball.
Yeah, if it's like a Buffalo or something. Yeah.
But even Buffalo, I don't necessarily
If he
love that
late
for him.
second to Buffalo, you have to take. I would take him easily before 111.
Are we sure he's that much better than Devin Singletary?
Yes, at least I think so.
kind of.
I want to say yes, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, are we sure?
I'm betting on Spiller.
I don't know. I used to be really high on Spiller, but there's just been so much coming out that's anti-Spiller. It's hard for me. I can't plant my flag like I would on other prospects. All right, keeping this train rolling along. Matt Corral, I think, is better than Kenny Pickett. I just don't know what
Yeah.
the NFL thinks about that. Desmond Ritter, sorry, skipping over Jahan Dotson for a second, just because Desmond Ritter is a quarterback as well, and Sam Howell. To me, these guys are going to flip and fly and sink just solely based off NFL draft capital. And I wouldn't like, I don't know. I don't see most of these guys going in the first round at this point. Just looking at the NFL and like, I just
Ritter
think
and Howell.
Ritter, Howell, even Corral. I'm not even convinced about Malik Willis. Like, I don't know how many of these guys actually go in the first
Malik
round.
Willis is the only one I can say with confidence is going first
Dude,
round.
you know, I hate to buy into the hype, but I actually kind of am starting to like Ritter more after watching Alec Pierce.
Ooh, all right, Pete Carroll.
You know, there's a couple things. First off, his like drop it in the bucket throws are really, really nice.
Well, the thing with Ritter is his good throws are like as good, if not better, than any other quarterback. Like his really, really good throws in this draft class. Besides maybe like some ridiculous things that Malik Willis does, but like for the most part, I think his good. It's just the inconsistency with Ritter. That's always been the thing with him.
Yeah, it is a little bit inconsistent. But I mean, he's good. He's like on the move. He's
I like
dangerous.
Ritter, but
Um,
I don't know. I don't know if I can go to first round QB.
You know, the thing that scares me about Ritter is I just wanted to see something at the Senior Bowl. I felt like he was one of the worst quarterbacks at the Senior Bowl. And it's just like, okay, yeah, how much weight do you put into that? I don't know, but
Has there historically been a quarterback? I know there's been like receivers, running backs, but like a quarterback who just was completely like. I won't say that Ritter was like completely bad, but had like a pretty underwhelming Senior Bowl performance and ended up being good. At least like that you guys can remember from prior Senior Bowls.
last year, not really.
I guess because
Um,
most good QBs usually don't stay until their senior year, but
I mean, the past two, the past couple of ones, it's like the standouts at quarterback were Mac Jones and Justin Herbert, who like, I mean,
Yeah,
you can
they
tell me
both
if you
did
think
well.
that those picks were worth it or not. So maybe I'm not like an expert of the Senior Bowl. Maybe one of the people in chat.
I'm just not
would know
willing to
more than
place it
me.
all on one game. But
Well,
to
I'm more
me,
so talking about the practices.
The
I don't really
week
give a fuck about
practice.
the game. I mean, Kellen Mond had a really good game, but the practices weren't amazing from him.
I don't know. Senior Bowl means next to nothing for me. It's just we're already looking at lesser prospects if they're in the Senior Bowl. That's how it works.
Tender girl JT.
It's just how it works. I don't know what to tell you, but like Desmond Ritter, to me, he's not first round draft grade. I don't have a first round draft grade on Desmond Ritter. I barely have it on Matt Corral and Sam Howell. And to be honest, I don't think either of those guys are actually getting drafted in the first round either. I mean, the only team I'm looking at is Detroit at 32, sitting there. If they're just like, hey, we could just grab this quarterback who we can get for on a 5th-year option kind of thing, like we get him on the rookie deal, see what he has. If we miss, fine, but it's a shot worth taking. I just don't know why any other team would trade up into the first round or and get one of those guys, or B, take them as just a backup, because like that's essentially what they would be for any of those other teams picking late.
I like Matt Corral at 12. I think I would take Jahan Dotson over Matt Corral right now, but I like getting Matt Corral with the last pick in the first round of a draft. That feels pretty darn good to me, given where I thought of him coming into the offseason.
Yeah, I think the draft, we're going to see the quarterbacks kind of change up their ADP more than any other position, because that's what it ultimately comes down to with a bunch of these guys, like how much faith the teams have in a Howell, Corral, or Ritter to where they're willing to draft them.
Yeah, we don't have to spend. We already kind of went through a lot of the receivers. So Dotson, me and Jake are gonna love it. 13. JT is gonna be like, oh, he's a senior. Give me one of the other guys. Probably David Bell over him.
Yep. You know me. Again, if he has day 2 or higher draft capital, day 2 or earlier draft capital for David.
Wait,
Bell.
who is this?
Dave Bell over Dotson. If he has day 2 or higher draft capital, if he doesn't, then I'm just gonna take Dotson.
Ritter at 14. Don't hate.
Don't love.
I don't hate it. I really don't.
Yeah, you're the Ritter guy though.
I am the Ritter guy, and guess what? I think people are finally starting to see what he can bring to the table. He has the prototypical frame. He's won a lot of games at the college football level. And on top of that, we've seen his really good throws. Obviously, we've seen the bad with him too. He's not a perfect prospect, and that's why people are so all over the board with him. If he goes to a coach that truly believes in him and puts him in a situation to make good decisions and good, easy throws to get him going, I don't see why he can't be.
In your ideal scenario, where does he go?
New Orleans.
No, because I don't like. If Sean Payton was there, I'd say yes, but I don't like him with the defensive coach.
That's fair.
Ideal scenario, he's going to the Lions at 2.
That's just not happening.
Yeah,
It's not
ideal realistic scenario.
Panthers at 6.
Yeah, Panthers are a wild card.
I don't like the team.
Pittsburgh trades up for him.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
that's
that might be the
probably
perfect
true
one.
ideal. Because at least with Carolina, I just think Rule's a lame duck coach. Like I think he's gone. These other teams, I don't know if they're actually like the Seahawks.
What about Atlanta?
That'd be interesting.
If they take him at 8, that's a high investment in Ritter.
How would you guys feel if he didn't go first round, but then the Giants took him in the second?
No. Out.
Early second.
Out.
JT quite literally looks at the spreadsheet, says, "I'm Tinder, JT." Nope, but that's a red X.
I just don't
Well,
like
it would be what? It'd be like,
listen, I'd probably agree with you there.
It'd be like what, pick 37?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Giants second.
Giants. No, it's 30.
Just look at all of the. Just pull up second round NFL quarterbacks, and you can point to 2 actual good ones. Now I'm not willing to bet on Desmond Ritter.
Memory. Got Derek Carr, Jimmy G.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think you're really stroking JT here. With
I don't know where they
honestly.
went in Superflex.
Derek Carr's a really good fit.
But he's fine.
All right, let's move on. Sky Moore, 15th overall, wide receiver 8.
Yeah.
I like it. Obviously, Sky Moore's ADP early in the offseason was much more favorable. He was more of a late second. I think that's fine at 15.
Yeah, I don't mind him there.
It's fine. It's not amazing, but I like it.
Sam Howell at 16. I think that he's going to be one that drastically
He could potentially
you're getting the cheapest buy on him. If you're thinking he's a first round quarterback and you're getting him at the 16th pick in your rookie draft, that's pretty darn good. He's a dude that how many more or less boxes does he check than any of these other fucking guys?
Yeah. And I think also the thing with him with everything, not that even talent wise he's in the same league, But Justin Herbert, where it's like his last season at Oregon, people's opinion on him kind of dipped a bit. But the year before, everyone was way higher on him. Coming into the season, Sam Howell was everyone's. Well, a lot of people's like people thought
He was in the top
10 pick.
two. 100%. He was in the top 2 consensus quarterbacks.
So it depends on team. I think, like I mentioned, Malik Willis is the only person I have faith in going in the first round of the NFL draft. I feel most people think if there's going to be second, it's going to be Pickett. I feel like if I had a bet, it'd probably be Howell, just because I could see a team like falling in love with the version of like what people saw him as before this season.
I'd be very much in on Howell if he gets first round draft capital in the NFL. I just don't think he's going to, though.
I wonder if he goes, like where he goes if he gets first round draft capital.
If he is, he's super ahead of.
Where do you swap him and Pickett?
Yeah,
If
he's super ahead of Pickett.
What is it? Oh, you mean where he goes in rookie draft?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought you were talking about the NFL draft, because I was going to say
he has to be a top 12 pick if he's in the first.
Oh, you want it to be like how do you feel?
No,
how do you feel
in rookie draft.
Oh, in rookie draft.
Top 12
okay,
pick
yeah. I was gonna say, I was like, yes, go top 12 in the NFL, because I could definitely see like a team that didn't draft Malik Willis but still needs a quarterback, like trading into the end of the first round and taking a quarterback in the NFL draft, where like that may be where he ends up going. I don't know.
All right, Christian Watson at 17.
High.
A little too high.
I like it. Beautiful, Picasso.
But I mean, I don't think it's as egregious as some of these picks coming up. Rashad White at 18, I don't like.
Egregious.
I mean,
that's disgusting.
We've
That's
gone
just a
over
reach on the
Rashad
fourth
White
running back.
before. I mean, I can understand why people like Rashad White. He has a lot of receiving production, and he is a good receiver. I'm sorry. I'm just not going to take the guy that is the second lowest in my forced missed tackle tracking ever. That very rarely screams good running back to me. And I'm projecting him to probably go day 3 of the NFL draft, which isn't going to kill you as a running back, but I'm not taking you in the middle-ish part of the second.
It's just people grasping for the running back 4 in this class. And to me, it's not Rashad White, and it's also too high for even Brian Robinson, who I really like. That's like right about where I draft Brian Robinson.
Okay, David Bell, wide receiver 10. I mean, I don't hate 19th overall, 7th pick of the second round. Ideally, given the concerns, you would like to see it a little bit lower the price tag, but it's really not bad. And if he does end up going in the 3rd round, I think that you'll see that price potentially increase a little bit.
If he's a 3rd round pick, that's a steal. If he's a day 3 pick, that's a little too rich for me.
Joe Herbert said Watson is his number 30 overall. I mean, yeah, then you definitely hate him going at 17.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't put it all together yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if I'd have him a little bit higher, I imagine.
30th overall pick in the NFL draft.
He honestly might be. He's gonna be. You're gonna love Christian Watson, Lounis. He's gonna get picked by the Chiefs. He's just gonna be McCole Hardman part 2.
Oh, I dare you! If he goes first round of the Chiefs, I dare you to keep him out of your top 10, or keep David Bell.
Oh, I will.
He will be.
I will. I will.
Oh my God, he's gonna look egregious.
He's literally McCole Hardman if you do that.
Zamir White, 20th overall, RB5. I don't really love Zamir White. I think he's a decent player.
He's
very
athletic. It feels like people kind of trying to just find the next running back.
Yeah, that's
just kind of grasping for straws.
I don't mind Zamir White here. I think I'm a Zamir White fan of the pod, but like
I could see me being okay with it if the landing spot
is 208. It's 208. I don't mind it. At that point, if you think he's running back 4 and you can get him at running back 5 or 6, I don't think it's a bad pick.
To me, Zamir White is a landing spot dependent running back, though. I want him to go into a scheme and a situation that I think will favor him. And I think the big annoyingness is that's not a word, is it? Annoyingness? The big thorn in my side with Zamir White is not only the fact, like, okay, there's a difference between not being a receiving back and quite literally, I have questions if he can catch a single football thrown to him.
Yeah, but what if he goes somewhere like? How do you feel if what round are we? Are we guessing he's like a 4th rounder? maybe late third.
No, I think he can
Like-
go in the third round. He's extremely athletic.
Let's say he goes third round to like the Chargers. Is that like kind of the perfect landing spot for you? He wouldn't have to do some of the pass catching works, and he can be in a high powered offense. It's kind of the first down back.
Yeah, it's not bad.
I would
definitely
love
say
that. That's where I think he becomes a good like later half second round rookie pick.
I see. I just feel like every scenario that he gets into, the first thing I'm asking is, okay, what's happening to the guy above him?
Yeah.
You know, like,
That's fair.
okay, if he goes to Baltimore, that'd be great. But what's good? What's happening with Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins? Is he just gonna be, he gets 8 carries a game kind of a guy? I mean, for an NFL perspective, that's fine. But for my fantasy team, sorry, that 8 carries ain't getting too far.
I couldn't be. I think there is a role for him on a team like the Chargers, because I don't think they want to have Eckler there every single down. That's they're having to.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a role for him on the Chargers, the Ravens, the Titans. I mean, fuck, even the Steelers could use him. I just don't think we're going to be able to snag him up with that much draft capital. Like, I think there's plenty of teams that could use Zamir White. But what is he going to do for my fantasy team, and why am I taking him at the end of the second round over some people? Okay, Mechie, 21 at wide receiver 11. I don't hate it. I just, once again, I kind of want to get him in the third. I think ideally Mechie is like a good early third round pick wide receiver. I will take him at the end of the second though.
I'm fine with him here because there's not a ton of guys after him where I'm like, oh, they definitely should. Like Brian Robinson, yeah, but
There's like 3 guys behind him that I'd probably draft over him. But I don't think that's terrible.
yeah, it's not like an egregious amount or anything.
James Cook
Cook
feels a little high, and I think I'm the highest on James Cook out of us.
I'm surprised at how low Brian Robinson is with these running backs.
I mean, one thing I will say, James
He's
Cook has
just
been getting
older,
some
that's-
hype from
Yeah.
the community.
Yeah. I don't know. Trey McBride here.
Phenomenal.
I like
pick.
Trey-
Yeah,
I like Trey
McBride.
McBride here.
So Skull Dynasty said in the chat, Bell, McBride, Pierce, and Strong, give me them guys at their spot. I don't know if he's talking about Carson Strong or Pierre Strong, but either way, I probably don't want that one. But the other guys I agree with wholeheartedly. So
I'm sure he's talking about Pierre Strong, but
Trey McBride
I
feels
actually
like
now
the
also don't know if he's
classic.
talking about Damian Pierce or Alec Pierce, but either one I would agree with.
Trey McBride feels like that classic, not super sexy tight end pick that everyone knows is a good value pick, but you just, you're playing the game like, oh, I want this receiver, but there's Trey McBride, so he just kind of ends up going in that middle endish part of the second.
It's like a poor man's
Yeah.
move.
All right. This episode is running a little long, so I'm going to try and speed us up a little bit. What I think is interesting, and I think we should just jump around a little more, is Trey McBride's tight end 21 at 23. I was surprised to see Jalen Werdemeyer was tight end 2 at 36. I just think there's more tight ends that are better than Jalen Werdemeyer, and that probably could be up higher in this ADP. I mean, I think the NFL draft will probably change where these guys go.
Yeah, I
Specifically,
just think this is a result.
Jalen Werdemeyer is not going to be tight end too.
Yeah.
I will put my entire life on that. There's a
Dolchich,
good chance
Jelani
this dude is
Woods,
not getting drafted.
Charlie Kohler, those are all guys that I'd rather have than Jalen Werdemeyer, and those are all guys I'd honestly have at that like middle of the third. So pick, I don't know, 28 or something.
Yeah.
Those are like 3 guys that I would definitely bump up into this list that are currently not in this list. Brian Robinson, I think we all agree, seems really low at where he is. I said I think on this last episode that he was going to be the darling of the draft and that he was going to just get bumped up a bunch. So we're just going to have to wait a week and see that happen. Justin Ross, I would definitely take at this ADP. I don't think you guys would agree necessarily. I mean, this is assuming he's a day 2 pick, as in second or third round. I don't necessarily think he will be, but if he is, that feels like a steal. I would assume
To
you guys
me,
disagree.
Ross and Robinson at 25 and 26, and even Kyron Williams, Jalen Werdemeyer, this range of players, I feel like their name recognition is kind of carrying their ADP a little bit more so than they deserve. Okay, Justin Ross, I can agree. I think Justin Ross has a higher ceiling than all the other players that I listed, other than maybe Kyron Williams. But I still don't like him at 301. I'm not going to be picking him at 301.
Damian Pierce feels a little low here, and I think I'm the
He's
lowest
very
on
low,
Damian
yeah.
Pierce here. Carson Strong, he's an interesting one. I have no idea where Carson Strong is going in the NFL draft, but he just kind of
Dude,
seems like
I love Carson Strong. The guy has one knee
Yeah.
though.
he seems like he's he's destined to be some backup quarterback somewhere.
Can't believe
Yeah.
Jalen Pierce is this low. 27.
Yeah. Kyron Williams, I think, is just going to drop down even further. Just
Probably.
done nothing to help him.
Eh,
He's done nothing to help him, dude.
And then
eh, eh.
Tyler Algier is whatever. I think you're just reaching at
Model.
running backs at this point. Jalen Tolbert,
The model.
yeah.
that's what I'm gonna call him, Tyler the Model Algier,
Yeah.
for the rest of the draft.
For those who don't know, we consistently reference this Reddit post about some dude's model
He
that
made
had
some, like,
Tyler
complex
Algier as the
model.
best running back in like the past 20 years.
Yeah,
Like, he's
coming
the
out, it was like it's this guy, then Saquon, then AP. That's like what the model came out with.
Joe Herbert said he wants Jelani Woods in the 4th over McBride in the 2nd. I think if I just don't think Jelani Woods will stay in the 4th, but I agree with that perspective. I'd rather just wait a little bit to grab the tight end. Wordmeyer for 509.40. Yeah, he's a goner. All right, Jalen Tolbert. I talked about he's like 35 years old. No thanks.
I
He's
like
actually
Jalen
23.
Tolbert at 31 though. I think that's fine. That's right
I
at
like
where I'm
him.
Yeah,
want to get him.
it's like 207, right?
Same thing
So
with
I would-
Alec Pierce at 32, wide
No, sorry,
receiver
37.
15 off the board, fine. Like like in terms of dart throws, I think that's a way better dart throw than some of the other darts that are being thrown here.
Yeah, I like Alec Pierce at 308. Calvin Austin's another one
Calvin
that's just like-
Austin, once again, fine at 33. Pierre Strong, I'm not the biggest Pierre Strong, but like I think at 34, fine. We're talking about the end of the 3rd round. Ford and Jalen Wordmeyer, I just don't like as prospects.
Yeah, those are the ones that are hanging on due to name recognition. There's
I'm just these are two dudes that I think are both going to get undrafted. Jerome Ford maybe like 6 or 7.
we're going to see in a week and a half. We're going to see Greg Dulcich, Jelani Woods, Charlie Kohler. Those tight ends are going to be in
Cade
there because they're
Otton
going to have
potentially.
yeah,
Don't sleep
Cade
on him.
Otton. True,
Even Jeremy Ruckert.
Yeah, I like Ruckert as well.
potentially. Yeah. He was hurt and didn't do a pro day though, right? So
Yeah.
Yeah, the other question mark about him is that he just kind of might be a better blocker than receiver.
He'll get picked then.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
I will say one of my favorite sleepers now that is not in here that I found from my last film session was I can't remember his name, the Oklahoma
Kennedy
running back.
Brooks.
Yeah,
Kennedy
Kennedy Brooks. Dude, Kennedy Brooks is nice. I like Kennedy Brooks a lot. He's like the one running back that I've watched that is not completely disappointed all of my expectations, I feel like. And he is going nowhere. I think I just picked him in the 21st round of a startup. Like I like him a lot. Currently, if we go to my forced missed tackles sheet, let me pull up the better screen here. Can you guys read this? I feel like this is really small.
We're delayed on YouTube, so no, you could see it pretty.
Here, let me increase a little bit. Oh geez, I'm fucking
Skull
this up.
Dynasty says Patriots will draft the tight end as usual. I hope not. I think Jonnu Smith.
They have
just-
some good ones
just
that
needs
they
to
just
get-
gave a lot of money to.
Yeah, Kennedy Brooks right now in 3rd in the forced missed tackle sheet. 37% of his attempts. Much higher than I was thinking. And dude, his tape is pretty good as well. I think the one problem is that Oklahoma run scheme is like a super gap oriented scheme and a lot of like option crap. So how realistic is that when like more than half the NFL teams are these wide zone Shanahan kind of guys that just kind of spam zone and duo like those? So I don't really know, but I think from a pure talent perspective, Kennedy Brooks was someone that shocked me, and I thought at least I think is getting no credit from the community right now.
Isaiah Spiller.
Is he going to be this year's Elijah Mitchell?
Maybe he might be. I mean, I
Around
think
6
right
times,
now
yeah.
you could get him way cheaper than Elijah Mitchell. Like Elijah Mitchell, you had to pay up a mid-3rd. It was getting to come last year because he was drafted by the Niners.
Yeah,
Isaiah Spiller and Kyron Williams being 7 and 8 on that board. I don't know if that should make me feel better about those two or just worse about everyone else.
See, the
And
thing
I'm
that
leaning towards
concerns me
worse.
about Isaiah Spiller is that we know Isaiah Spiller is great in the open field. You can see that by his, where is this? 61% force missed tackle rate per catch, right? Generally speaking, on a catch, you're open field. But in between the tackles, I was expecting a lot more out of Isaiah Spiller. And it's not just his force missed tackle rate in between the tackles that gives me issues about him. And that's kind of my concern. Same thing with Kyron Williams. It's like Kyron Williams, from a breaking tackles and forcing missed tackles perspective, he's fine. Like, we've seen plenty of running backs with a 28% force missed tackle per touch percentage succeed. That's not my issue with him. It's a lot of his vision and his tempo and his execution of the run schemes from Notre Dame that give me the concerns.
Joe Herbert says Brooks sheds tacklers like German Shepherds shed fur. I'm going to assume German Shepherds shed fur a lot. Then I don't know. I do know that I had a yellow lab who used to shed a new dog every day.
He's got some chunky feet. He's got great balance. I don't know. I think he's underrated right now.
They shed a shit ton of fur, by the way.
Okay, cool. Good to know.
Dude, go watch that game against Texas that he had. He was a beast.
All right. Well, probably one of our longest episodes in a while.
Wait, hold on. Skull Dynasty. Tyler Algier ran a 4.6 something off my board.
Someone commented on last episode that we are too low on Tyler Algier.
Oh yeah, some dude was going in on us about Tyler Algier. Dude, we can't take a hit.
Oh my god, yeah, in the comment.
Yeah,
you were going off.
I mean, you're right.
He's not wrong. Like, I get destroyed.
Yeah.
That was hilarious.
That was funny. Yeah, some dude was pissed off at the Tyler Algier video that we posted because we weren't high enough on Tyler Algier, and that we can't take a hit. So
imagine he's like,
valid.
Imagine he's the person who made the
model.
The model. It's him. I wish I saved that right. I need to find that comment somehow.
All right, I'm going to cut us off here, though. We'll be back tomorrow for the Dynasty stock market. We're going to be messing around a little bit with the schedule next week, TBA, just because we plan on doing 3 straight days of the live stream for the NFL draft, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So we'll see what's going on.
If you need some degenerate draft content, you know exactly who streamed to turn into.
Frank's going to put out
last year was
a hype
crazy.
video a little bit.
Last year was crazy.
Yeah.
How many eggs were cracked over heads last year?
The first night, just for me, double digits.
Yeah, there's
I
at least
think
2
you were
dozen
at
eggs.
15 eggs cracked. I was at 9, I believe.
At least 2 dozen eggs.
I believe
shotguns.
4 gallons of milk drank, or 3 gallons of milk.
It was bad.
Yeah, it was not.
It was
3
bad.
gallons of milk. Shotguns galore, hot sauce shots, other shots. All right. With that, thank you everyone for listening. Please like, comment, subscribe, all the fun stuff. We really appreciate it. Thank you, everyone.